Good evening. Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Issap will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November 15th, 2022, at the Town Hall West, 401 West Main Street, Issap, New York, on the following applications at the times listed or as soon thereafter as they may be reached. John M. Lorenzo, Chairman. First application, 826-22, Paul DeLuisa. Permission to leave driveway having side yard of 3 feet instead of required 4 feet, and shed having side yard of 1.4 feet instead of required 2 feet. Residence AA District, 278 Cluster, north side of Debbie Lane, number 7, 74 feet east of Ardagh Avenue, Bohemia, New York. Anyone here on that application? Come on up to the podium, please. Name and address for the record, if you don't mind.
I'm Samantha DeLuisa, Paul DeLuisa's wife. Address 7 W.D. Lane, Bohemia, New York, 11716.
Great, how are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. You have a driveway 3 instead of 4. We see that multiple times a year. It seems the minimum shed having 1.4 instead of required 2. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application. Grant the application. Second.
All in favor? Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Application 827-22, Mariana Pretz. I apologize about that. Permission to install pool equipment having side yard and rear yards of 2 feet instead of required 6 feet each. Residence A District, north side of Chenango Drive, 162 feet east of Manor Bay Shore. Good
Sure.
evening.
Good evening, Tracy Rivera, agent for the applicant, Tracy's Permits, 363 Terryville Road, Port Jeff Station, New York, 11776.
Can you just speak a little bit louder? We can't hear.
Sure, I'm sorry, is that better?
That's better. Thank you.
We were before the board back on July 26th for applications for the pool and for the deck, and the applications were granted. After the approval came in and speaking with the owner and the pool company, it seems to be that after site plans were passed back and forth between the pool company and myself, that nobody acknowledged the fact that the pool equipment wasn't put on any of the applications. So therefore, we're back before the board for a variance on the pool equipment.
Sorry about that.
Mary and I made a big joke about it, that like the good old days of Aldo, who would always catch it. So we're looking for, a 2-foot side yard and rear yard. Reason being, after speaking with the pool company, once they put the pavers around the pool and the equipment that has to be buried, it's going to be a really tight fit. This doesn't impact any of the neighbors. You could see by the aerial that had been submitted with the last application and what you're looking at, that it really doesn't impact anyone. And
Where will the pool equipment go?
it'll be 2 feet off the rear and 2 feet off the side. I mean, 3 feet is the greatest they can do without it being a huge financial setback. Otherwise, they have to do a lot more plumbing if they aren't granted.
Seems like it's up against some wooded area.
Yeah, it's wooded areas. You don't see anything. And like I said, we're not doing any kind of grants for the patios. It was either patio granting or asking for pool equipment, and we decided to go with pool equipment.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
Application 828-22, Charles Sinito. I apologize again. Permission to leave above ground pool having side yard of 8 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence B District, 278, east side of Spring Meadow Drive, 125 west of Nichols Road, Holbrook, New York.
Hi, Charles
sir.
Cincinnito, 125 Spring Meadow Drive, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
Great. How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. So you have an above ground pool, a little bit too close. How long has it been up?
I'm not 100%. House came with the pool.
So what we do at the Zoning Board of Appeals here in ISUP is above ground pools, we say life of the pool. So if you have to replace the pool, fix it, you have to just make it comply one day.
Okay.
Right now you can- Okay?
Yep.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wax, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to grant the application.
All in favor? Application granted for life of the pool.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Want me to? Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna pass it over to,
Bernard F. McMahon Jr. Permission to leave portico having front yard of 19.5 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 20 feet. Residence B District. Good morning.
Hello.
Bernard F. McMahon Jr., 8 20th Avenue, Bay Shore.
How are you tonight?
Fine.
You have a portico half a foot too close.
5 inches, they said.
What are we going to do? Let's get it. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Number 30, Ronald H. and Doreen L. Permission to erect one-story addition 14 by 36, leaving floor area ratio of 0.6 instead of permitted 25% residence fee. Good evening.
Good evening.
Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Joseph Walker, Double Check Builders, 270 Ronkonkoma Avenue, Ronkonkoma, 11779.
Nice to see you again. Would you like to name and address for the record, please, too?
Doreen LL, 329 Singingwood Drive, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
Great. Nice to see you guys tonight. So you're seeking permission to erect a one-story addition. You have a little bit increased floor area ratio.
Correct. We're
Thank you.
holding the side yards, total side yards, and rear yard.
Great. And you know, you've been here before, so we at Zoning Board of Town of Islip, although the code says 25, we see up to 30%, and you're at 26.6, so I'm sure there's not an issue with the FAR.
Thank you.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you so much.
Number 831, Dennis and Kathleen Trainer, permission to erect one-story addition, 16 by 17.5, leaving side yard of 13 feet instead of required 14 feet, residence fee.
Good evening.
Good evening. Dennis Trainer, 54 Glen Summer Road, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You have a one-story addition. You're looking to erect 13 instead of 14. Looks like the household's 13 now.
Yes.
Great. No objection from planning, Deirdre? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant the application.
All in favor?
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good night.
832, Stacy Romulus Baldy, permission to leave pool patio having rear yard of 4 feet instead of required 6 feet, residence A district. You don't look like Stacy.
I haven't notarized letters. I'm the former owner. She's I don't know. She's like paralyzed, like she's disabled, so she couldn't be here. But I do have a notarized letter to represent her. If you guys want it.
Sure. Can you just grab to that gentleman? Your name is?
Antonio Capolino.
Is your address, please, sir?
The address is 100 Queen Street, Bay Shore, New York, 11706. CAPPELLINO.
So you live at the same address now?
I do not. I'm the former owner. I sold her the home.
Can you just give the address you live at now?
82 Baywood Street, West Babylon, New York, 11704.
Thank you. So you hear permission to leave a pool patio, rear yard of 4 instead of required 6. Pavers, it's pervious, correct, on that one side?
Yeah, it's yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Number 833, Jose E. Claros Diaz. Permission to use dwelling for family use only, pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-419.1, residence double A.
Good evening, Roxanne. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. We're here to establish permission to use a dwelling as a two-family, family use only. The documentation has been submitted and it's based on medical.
Great. Everything seems to be in order, based on medical, as you said. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Come on up. Just name and address for the record, please.
Jennifer Chamali, 35 Arizona Avenue, Bay Shore. We just wanted to get more information if there was some type of time frame. We live in the backyard,
You gotta
for the backyard neighbors.
You got to speak up to here. I'm sorry.
Oh, we just wanted to get some more information about a time frame. Our residence is the backyard neighbor, so we just wanted to know what the process would be and what to expect.
As you mean time frame as in what?
As far as if there's any construction, making it a two-family dwelling.
I don't know what their time frame is, but I don't think they have a time frame.
I don't think there's a proposed addition associated with
Yeah, it's
Okay.
within the
the
house.
application.
Okay, that was just the only question.
Yeah, and it's two-family use only, so they're, owner occupied. It's based on medical, so they meet all the criteria for the town of Islip Code.
All right,
No.
that was it.
All right.
Thank
great.
you.
No problem. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you.
Number 834, Kondaker M. and Nasima Hossein, permission to establish two-family use only pursuant to Islip Code Section 68-119.1, and to leave driveway having side yard of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet, residence AA.
Good evening, Michelle.
Good evening again. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. We are here to establish a two-family, family use only. The documentation has been provided, and this is based on age. And we're also here for the driveway having a side yard of 1 foot instead of the required 4.
Great, everything seems to be in order. Criteria is age, driveway 1 instead of 4, we see that a lot, it seems to be minimus. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years and grant the variance as requested there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, see you in 3 years.
Number 835, Raul A. Garcia, permission to leave roofed over entrance, 6 by 7 feet, having side yard of 8 feet instead of required 14 feet, roofed over porch, 11.5 feet by 15.7 feet, having rear yard of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet, driveway having side yard of 3 feet, and patio having side yards of 1 foot and 2 feet instead of required 4 feet each, residency district.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road. In reviewing this application, we did notice that the rear yard occupancy was unfortunately left off of the call of the meeting. So since it was not noticed, we're looking for an adjournment tonight.
So it's not rear yard occupancy anymore, right? It's landscaping
I'm sorry, yes.
percentage. Yeah.
Yes.
I think the right way to do it is to re-advertise it. No?
Mhm.
Great. So adjournment, Mayor, what's the next available date? We can do?
December, we could do November 29.
Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn until November 29th. All in favor?
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a great night. Thank
Number
you.
836, Michael DiNapoli, permission to leave air condenser unit having 2 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of required 4 feet. Shed having side yard of 1.8 feet instead of required 2 feet, and driveway having front yard occupancy of 44.1% instead of permitted 35, residence AAA district.
Good evening, Mr. Chakowski. How are you?
Good evening, how are you?
Doing well. Name and address for the record, please.
Richard Tripakowski, agent for the applicant, 173 North Main Street, Salem, New York.
How are you tonight?
Well, and yourself?
Good.
Okay. To address each issue, one, the air conditioner condenser has 2 feet rather than 4 feet. Is in setback from the front of the house is minimal deviation. The home is 113 feet back from the road, so the impact really does not impact the neighborhood at all. Number 2, the shed has 1.8 feet instead of 2 feet. This is a minimal impact. Number 3, the driveway has a front yard occupancy of 44.1% rather than 35%. However, the majority of it is pervious gravel and does not affect drainage. Also a minimal relief considering the area and the layout of the property. I did provide photos of the layout and how it was set up.
There's a large front yard. I have no objection.
I just don't want to create a precedent. What, don't you only give them 40%?
Yeah, it's just, this is such a large front yard setback. It's gravel.
Actually, I know this.
I know we give a little bit over sometimes.
All right, fine. I think if we have will, if we do grant it, we have will note that it's gravel, it's pervious,
Large front
otherwise
yard.
not objectionable. And there's a large front yard.
You guys good? Yeah. You good? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. Have a great Thanksgiving.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving.
Number 723, David Bagnati and Roseanne Luca. Permission to erect first story and second story additions, leaving side yard of 13.2 feet, instead of required 14 feet, and to use dwelling for two-family family use only pursuant to Issac County Code Section 68-419.1, Residence B District.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. James Zapka from Todd O'Connell Architects, offices at 1200 Veterans Highway, Hopog, New York, 11788.
Nice to see you again, James.
You too. We're here tonight with a pretty straightforward application. We're requesting to construct a 1 and 2 story addition to an existing 1.5 story dwelling. In doing so, we'd like to achieve a 1-family, 2-family use for this mother and daughter. We are constructing the addition over the footprint. Unfortunately, the existing house lacks the 14-foot side yard where we have 13.2.
Yep, just in that front corner, correct?
Yep, correct.
Great. And age is the criteria for the two-family, family use only. Everything else seems to be in order. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Period 3 years. Period 3 years.
Oh, and the two-family use for a period of 3 years. No more, no less.
All in favor? Application granted.
Okay.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. I don't see you.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks.
837, Patricia Canary. Permission to leave dwelling on lot having width of 74.66 feet instead of required 150 feet throughout. Lot area of 8,150 square feet instead of required 40,000 square feet. Front yard of 26 feet instead of required 50 feet, and to reconstruct sunroom, 9 feet by 11.9 feet, leaving side yard of 12.84 feet instead of required 25 feet, and total side yards of 23.05 feet instead of required 60 feet. Residence AAA addition.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Kennery, and I live at 27 Willen Road, Blue Point, New York, 11715.
How are you tonight?
Excuse me?
How are you tonight?
I'm very well, thank you.
So I'm just looking at the area. Are you only here because of the small part of your property that's in Islip?
I'm here because the two townships were, I don't know what was happening. COVID happened. This house was affected in, I think it was August 4th, 2020. And then for a storm, and the tree fell across the house, and it broke it destroyed the porch that was attached to the house, or part of the house. There's been a lot of problems here.
So you're here just to replace the sunroom,
Yes, yeah. it's a
reconstruct
sun-
the sunroom, I should say, not replace
reconstruct
it. And because of that, being that the property is split between Islip and Brookhaven, you have to come here also for relief?
Yes, I have to get permission, I guess, or whatever else is, right?
So you've intrigued the chairman. You just have to tell him a little bit what happened. So Brookhaven taxed it for for a long time, and then more recently Brookhaven said it's not ours anymore. Now it's Islip's?
No. What happened was I
You got to speak
purchased,
into the microphone. No, I can't hear.
okay, I purchased the house in 2002, and it was in the township of Brookhaven. And I was paying taxes for a while. Somewhere along the line, I don't know exactly when, I'd have to go back and look, there was a dispute between the town of Brookhaven and the town of Islip. The town of Islip has a quarter, it's the very small piece, which is in the back. Front of the house is all Brookhaven, and a little part of the back, which addresses or is added to the wetlands behind my house.
So
And
there
that's
was-
where the problem was, because the COVID occurred and whatever else is, and I guess the permit or whatever else is, whatever was sent to the wrong township, and then they said they didn't have, it was all during COVID, it was crazy.
So the question is now arising, is there a CO? As we know, Brookhaven had that very,
That's the CO that I was told was there, that was it.
Brookhaven had one line on the CO that just indicated that a house was built there in 1950, right? No more
Yes.
detail than that.
No more,
So the town is now preparing a certificate of compliance. Town of Islip is now issuing a certificate of compliance for the house.
They should.
Yes, so apparently, it's my understanding that that certificate of compliance is ready to be released, but it's awaiting this board's area variance, hopefully approval to reconstruct the sunroom.
So Deirdre from planning, you want to fill us in and enlighten us a little bit on this? Because I'm really confused. Right. Yeah. So no objection from planning, I'm hearing? Okay.
Have we ever had an application with Blue Point? Is the address?
Once or twice. I think we
Wow.
usually give those motions to Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, he's our Blue Point expert.
All right. Sorry to ask so many questions. I'm just kind of intrigued by this one. So
what, my
I said,
address?
I said, no. I said, I apologize to ask you so many questions. I'm just intrigued by this one.
Oh, it's amazing.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion. Dan, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
838, Edwin J. Vander Linde. Permission to leave one-story addition, approximately 12 feet by 17 feet, leaving floor area ratio of 26.45 instead of permitted 25. Residence B.
Good evening.
Good evening. John Tufel, professional engineer, 707 Route 110, Farmingdale.
How are you tonight?
I'm good, thanks. Obviously, I'm here tonight representing Edward Vanderlind, owner of 1 Holbrook Street, Bayshore, and he's seeking permission to leave a one-story addition, approximately 12 by 17. I'm just reading this off of the call, leaving a floor area ratio of 26.45% instead of the permitted 25% in the Residence B district. Just to give you a little history, we appeared before this board on July 20th, 2021, seeking relief to leave a detached garage with substandard setbacks and excessive FAR. This request was denied, and the demo permit number 200-970 was issued on May 16th, 2022. This garage has been demolished per my inspection of the property. That detached garage is gone. It's not there anymore. So that gives us an FAR of 26.45 instead of 25, and we'd like to maintain that if possible. The house is in the same condition now as when he bought it.
Great. So you in town of Islip, although the code says 25, we give up the 30% on FAR. So you're at 26.45. I don't see an issue with it. You fall within our threshold. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good night.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Number 839, Alejandro Valderrama, permission to leave enclosed basement entrance 6 by 6.3 feet, having side yard of 4.2 feet instead of required 14 feet, and to leave patio on side property line, not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence A District, Islip Terrace.
Good evening.
Good evening. You can pull that microphone up to you so you don't have to stop showing. Just name and address.
My name is Alejandro Valderrama. I'm the owner of 16 Andrew Avenue in Islip Terrace, New York, 11752.
How are you tonight?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Good. You can close the cellar entrance.
I purchased the home back in 2017. The cellar entrance was already constructed prior to me purchasing the home. I haven't touched the cellar entrance. It's been left like that since I purchased the home. Haven't had an issue with any of the neighbors, anything like that.
So what brought you here?
There was a claim that I had an illegal apartment in the basement. The inspector came, so that the basement is not an apartment. It's just used for storage. And then he saw the cellar entrance, and that's what brought me here.
That's crazy. Deirdre, any precedent? So you're saying never to be expanded?
Yeah, I'm never gonna touch the cellar entrance. I mean, I lost a day of work coming here. I don't plan on expanding anything else on the home. Yeah.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant the application with the proviso that it not be extended or enlarged.
That's fine.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application.
Hey, thank you very much.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Number 840, Ryan and Danielle Lafleur. Permission to install in-ground pool leaving rear yard of 10 feet instead of required 14 feet. Residence A District, West Islip. I like that.
Did he get that right, by the way?
Yes.
Lafleur?
Lafleur, yes.
Did I said it right, the right intonation?
Ryan Lafleur,
Just the
yes.
right Lafleur.
Good evening. David, address for the record, please.
Brian Lafleur, 185 Secretog Lane West, West Islip, New York, 11795.
How are you tonight?
Very good.
Good. You're installing a pool, a little bit close on one side, but it meets the requirements on everything else. We like to see that here at Town of Islip, that one side yard or rear yard actually meets code, and you've done that. Any objection from planning, Deirdre? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to grant the application.
All in favor? Application granted.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
great night. Happy Thanksgiving.
841, Krishnanan and Izzadari Pasu. Permission to establish, did I say that properly? Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code 68-602. Leave shed having side yard of 1.4 feet instead of required 4 feet and height of 16.34 feet instead of required 14 feet, and driveway on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence B, Bay Shore.
Good evening, Glenn Graham with Graham Associates, 256 Orinoco Drive, Brightwaters, New York.
Good evening, Mr. Graham. How are you?
Good evening, doing well. The owners of the property hired me to legalize an accessory apartment, which I believe falls well within the requirements. In doing so, we learned about the shed. I believe the side yard setbacks are, the relief has been granted by this board before, same with the driveway. And I know the status of, or the position the board normally takes on the height of structures. So I showed a few pictures of street view, a view of the front and the neighbor has a similar structure right next door, so.
I'm going to sound like Vinnie Messina. Isn't your best argument, aren't you really telling us that's really just a tiny little peak at the top that makes it extend?
Deirdre and I had a good laugh over this today, so I am at the mercy of the board on this one. So all my years, I'm not going to sit here and argue anything. It is what it is. Rubber ruler, call it what you want.
The reasonable ones absent?
Yeah. We've been doing this a long time, so.
Yep. Well, as Mr. Wex said, it just appears to be the peak, if you want to call it that, or the eve, or whatever you want to call it, on the top of it that
Yes.
breaks to 14.
I actually scribbled it in a magic marker there.
Yeah, I saw that on there. Thank you for that. And I believe the intent of the code is the height, so you couldn't have any sort of space up there for possible living or whatnot, and that obviously is not going to have that unless you're really, really, really tiny.
Yeah, this is a shed and it's not even used as a garage.
Great. So 1.4 instead of 4, we see that a lot. Height, we talked about already, and driveway on side property line not having setback of 4 feet, which seems to be only a small area, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it skews off as you get down to the street.
Yep, and apartment's 536 square feet, driveway complies, owner occupied, correct?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the apartment for a period of 3 years and grant the balance of the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Number 842, Vladimir and Dina Binsfeld. Permission to erect second-story addition, 26.4 by 28.3 feet, leaving front yard of 27.8 feet and roofed over porch, leaving front yard of 21.8 feet instead of required 40 feet each, and side yard 7.2 feet instead of required 14 feet, and to erect one-story addition, 10 by 12 feet, leaving total side yards of 21.7 feet instead of required 28 feet, all having a floor area ratio of 29.4 feet instead of permitted 25, Residence A District in Islip, Texas.
Good evening, Mr. Hang. How are you?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Chris Hang, 93 Main Street, West Sayville, New York.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Great. What's going on?
We are proposing a second-story addition over it's actually a 1.5-story existing house. So we're going to rip the half a story off of the existing house and putting a full dormer on top to make it a full 2-story structure.
So it's a Cape style home?
That's correct. We are also proposing a front porch onto the structure and a rear 1-story structure onto the rear of the property. With that, we have front yard relaxations and also a side yard relaxation and also the combined side yard relaxation. I reviewed this with Deidre. The front yard seems like there's precedence for that, but the side yards, there's no precedence for that, but we are just going straight up on the house. The existing house is at 7.2 feet from the side yard. Existing.
Just from the area alone, it looks like there's front yard precedence. It seems like dwellings are pushed forward compared to the one that the applicants highlighted there on the aerial.
Every one looks like it. Yeah.
Yep.
And side yard directly up above the existing dwelling, 7.2. Any objection from planning on that, Deirdre? Okay. And he's right under the 30% FAR, as we like to see. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make the motion that we grant the application.
All in favor? Application granted. Have a great
Thank you.
night. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thank you.
Number 843, Mary Elnick. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to ISO code section 68-602, leaving front yard, leaving second front door in violation of section 68-610B, and to leave roof over porch having front yard of 33.8 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 34 feet. Residence AA District in Bay Shore.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi. So we have a hired engineer that's on her way, but she's in traffic. I can speak or I can wait for her.
Would you like to wait for your design professional to come?
Please.
Yep. So we'll call a second call. So if you just give a little hand raise, we'll catch you right when they get in here.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Second call.
Number 844, Mary Ellen Angelo. Permission to erect one-story addition, 10 by 12 feet, leaving floor area ratio of 33.33% instead of permitted 25%. To leave two sheds. Shed number one, having 12 feet behind front line of dwelling instead of required 20 feet, and shed number two, having side yard 1.7 feet and rear yard of 0.9 feet instead of required 2 feet each. Resident B, District, Holbrook.
Good evening.
Denise Trefaro, DTT Design, 1165 Broadway Avenue, Holbrook, New York.
How are you tonight?
Very good.
Mary Ellen Angelo, 20 Poet Place, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
Good evening.
Anthony Angelo, 20 Poet Place, Holbrook, New York,
Good evening, sir.
11741. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, so what we're wishing to do is to square off the back right corner of the house, which is 12 and a half foot by 10 feet, 125 square feet, which brings us up to that 33.33% over the 25% allowed in the neighborhood. We do know of their adjacent neighbor that was granted a side yard variance back in 77, but FAR wasn't established back then, but it is currently at 39.4% FAR. And then there's two others on the corner from them, 3 Knollwood Court and 126 Fifth Street that are both at 33% FAR.
And that was granted by zoning board?
Yes.
Those FARs? Right, and the shed, 12 instead of 20, that was built
Those are
more than-
existing, yes.
Existing more than before the code change from 10?
The one shed was there when I bought the house in 1986, 87.
Okay.
That one's been there since then.
Right.
And the other one I put up, it's got to be 15, 20 years ago.
Okay. Great. Deirdre, any objection? They have some precedent. Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? The board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you. Happy
Have a great
Thanksgiving.
night. Happy Thanksgiving.
Number 845, Michelle Aiello. Permission to erect pavilion. I didn't say that right. I said all the letters.
Aiello.
What's Aiello?
A sound. Aiello.
All right. I thought if I read all the letters, I'd get a gold star. But all right. Permission to erect pavilion 15 by 20 feet, leaving second front yard of 7 feet instead of required 27 feet, and height of 14.6 feet instead of permitted 14 feet. Residence A District in East Islip.
Good evening.
Good evening, Christina Bravin, Morano Expediting, 2938 Hempstead Turnpike, Levittown. Agent for the applicant, Michelle Aiello.
How are you
So
tonight?
we're requesting, I'm good, how are you?
Good.
Requesting permission to construct a 15 by 20 pavilion, and that would require us to leave a front yard of 7 feet instead of the required 27 feet. So the property was here before the board on July 26th for an in-ground pool and a pool patio, and at that time, the board approved a 7-foot yard setback for the patio. And so the pavilion would be holding the same 7-foot setback. It's going to be installed directly on that patio. And the height is again 6 over the 14. It's not extremely large request. So the property is extremely unique and irregular in shape. As you can see, it just completely tapers off in the back, so they're having a hard time finding a place for this. And the property line is heavily vegetated on Tracy Lane. It has about 18 to 20 foot tall evergreens that screens this completely from the road.
And the pavilion, proposed pavilion that's they open on all sides, right? Just the roof over?
No, it's closed.
It's completely enclosed?
Yeah, so an architecture pavilion could be interpreted in multiple ways. So it could either be a building that's attached to another building or a separate building. It could be a structure that is partially opened or closed, so it's technically called a pavilion, but it's completely enclosed.
So it's technically a detached structure then, no?
It was denied as a pavilion. It is yes, detached structure. So there's no plumbing plans for it. It's just an enclosure. So it'll just allow them like privacy to change. They can store things in it. Do you have the plans that were attached? Do you want to, I have an extra set if you want to take a look.
They weren't attached for us, maybe to zoning when you got the denial?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, you could take a look at this right here, what it looks
So
like.
I just, and maybe I'm incorrect by saying this, I think of a pavilion, in my definition of pavilion is,
It's common to be, yeah, misconstrued. There's several different terminologies
But
where
this is
it's the
a
like 4 pillars with a roof, sort of a build your own type of kit, but this is not that.
But
this is a pool
structure,
house.
right, or
That's what it
pool
really
house.
is.
My question is, it seems 15 by 20 is awfully large considering you're seeking a large variance, 7 to 27 in the front yard. My take is this is really large in the wrong place, requiring a large relaxation. I mean, if it was really for changing, I mean, just for the pool. it'd
So
be
if I
a
can
lot
submit
Smaller, but
the photographs, there are 7 showing you where the proposed or now the in-ground pool was placed. You'll notice where it's difficult for them to place it the way the yard tapers off.
But, so I appreciate the pool. We heard this application and we approved it. Again, in my opinion, and I'm not speaking for the board, if this was, in, again, my opinion, an open pavilion, it would have a lot less weight on my mind than this detached pool house. That's what this really is. I saw the plans on it. There's sliding doors, there's a fireplace chimney. This is a detached structure pool house. This is not a pavilion. Pavilion, you can say whatever you want definition wise, I get that, but I'm not sure, you're looking for large setback for a detached structure on an odd shaped piece of property.
I'm following up on riffing off our chairman. It seems to me, if it was a real pavilion, like I think of the Brightwaters pavilions when you go by the Brightwaters Canal, to me, that's a pavilion. But you can either have a pavilion or you can have a structure, but I think the structure would have to be a lot smaller. It just is, it's another room. It's 15 by 20 in the front yard. And now when I hear there's going to be a fireplace and it's not just like a little shack you run in to quickly change your clothes. It's pretty large. It's a large variance, and I bet we have nothing as precedent. That's my concern.
Deirdre, from planning, what say you? Yeah, there seems to be other areas on the other side of the pool or closer to the home that this structure could be placed.
Is this something you'd like us to consider or right now, or if you want to go back to the client, take it to them and discuss it?
I mean, considering the confusion with the construction and, the structure type itself, I would say we would have to go back to see if they're open to leaving it, as an open column type.
So you're looking for, would you like an adjournment?
I think that's probably the best bet.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Make a motion to adjourn with an open date. Okay. All in favor? So once you get a date,
Talk
you
to
can go
Mary.
to Mary at the office and or Joanne. And
Okay. Thank you very much.
all right, you have a great night.
You
Number
too.
46, Luz Archimedes Galeas. Permission to leave, second story addition, 12 by 20.6 feet, having side yard of 6.6 feet instead of required 14 feet. Total side yards of 21.4 feet instead of required 28 feet. And floor area ratio of 43.5%. Is that correct? 43.5?
Yeah, it's a small lot.
43.5 instead of permitted 25%. Residence B, West Islip, New York. Hello,
Anyone
hello?
here for this application? Galeas 846-22. Anyone here for this application? Come on up.
Sorry, the invitation didn't get there yet.
Good evening, I'm sorry. Good evening, my name's David Henry, 708 Myrtle Avenue, West Islip. I am not the applicant.
Oh, you're just here to speak on this application?
Yes.
We're just looking for the applicant first.
And since they didn't come up, I didn't want it to pass on.
Nope, I appreciate your time. Just give us 1 second. Is the applicant Luz Galeas here for application 846-22? We'll give it a second call. Maybe they're in traffic. They'll show up for a few moments. Second call.
Number 847, Bayshore 77 LLC. Permission to erect 3-story and basement egress stairwell addition, 9.8 times 17.25 feet, resulting in floor area ratio of 64% instead of required 60%. BD District, Bayshore.
Good evening.
Good evening. How is everyone?
Good. How are you tonight? Name and address for the record, please.
Yep. Stephanie Rakech, RAKIEC, project architect for Bush Associates, located at 90 West Main Street, Bayshore, New York, 11706.
Great. How are you tonight?
Not too bad. It's Tuesday night.
Great. I haven't heard that. Not too bad for a Tuesday night.
So I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Stephen Cabells, one of the owners, part of the Bayshore 77 LLC group. As stated just before, we are requesting permission to erect a new rear addition to the existing 3-story building located at 77 East Main Street, more commonly referred to as the Citibank Building on Main Street in Bayshore. The building is located in the BD or Business District in Town of Islip. The overall project is aiming to provide for 5 apartments on the existing 3rd floor of the building. To provide for the required life safety measures of the new program on the 3rd floor, the proposed 668 square foot addition to the rear of the building will house a new 3-story egress stair with electrical and storage needs in the basement of that addition. It accounts for approximately 3.2% of the 20,839 square foot lot, bringing the total FAR to 64.4% instead of the permitted 60%. Tonight, we're requesting the variance of an increase of 4.4% to the allowable percentage of the lot occupancy for the minor rear addition to the existing 3-story building.
And it's just for the egress for the stairwell
Correct. Yep.
down off the back.
Yep.
So, Deirdre, any objection from planning?
Yeah, so the owner did actually consolidate 2 of the lots to help bring that FAR down as well. So it was originally like 184%. So
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicoli, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
all right, thanks, guys. Have one.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Number 893, adjourned from December 11th, 2018, and June 4th, 2019. Antonio and Lisa Lorenko, permission to leave shed having front yard of 1 foot instead of required 319 feet, and not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. To leave brick patio having side yard of 2 feet and rear yard of 0, instead of required 4 feet each. To leave concrete patio having side yard of 0, instead of required 4 feet. To leave 2-story detached garage 26 by 26.3 feet, having front yard of 7.5 feet instead of required 319 feet, not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. To leave garage having gross floor area of 1,367.6 square feet, exceeding the ground floor area of the principal dwelling, 976.04 feet. Garage having height of 21 feet instead of required or permitted 14 feet. Residence A District, Bay Shore.
Good evening, Thomas Licari, 127 West Main Street, East Islip. This application, members of the board, is supposed to have been amended. In the past, I had met with Aldo, and the amendments, which I have it written out here. I could read it to you, I can hand it in.
So, how are you, Ms. Licari? Are the amendments stated in this new application here on the,
The amendments are not in the application. But the garage height was going to be reduced to 18 feet to establish non-conforming use based upon the code as it existed prior to 2007.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Why are we applying a code in 2022 that existed in 2007?
The garage was built somewhere between 1998, when my clients purchased the property, and 2004, 2005.
Don't they have to comply with today's code?
They have to comply with the code when it was built to establish a pre-existing use at the time it was constructed.
Wait, pre-existing use?
It was grandfathered in, basically. It should have been grandfathered. If they made the application,
When did it go from 18, what was it, 18 feet, you said?
it was built by my clients. They purchased in 98. My client is a mason. He's now a high-end tile person. He built the garage himself with a rec room for their growing family. There's no kitchen in there. There's no bathroom. There's no plumbing.
I'm sorry, Mr. Licari, I'm just trying to get, aren't you trying to establish a non-conforming use?
Trying to establish a
When did
non-conforming.
it go from 18 feet to 21.7?
can I interrupt you guys a second, really quick, just really quick?
You're the chairman.
Just, I'm talking this out loud with you guys also, but I believe Mr. Licari would like to amend the call to meeting for it to read, having a height of 18 feet instead of permitted 14 feet. This, written by Aldo, back in 2019, says to establish non-conforming use of detached garage having a height of 18 feet instead of permitted 14 feet. So I think he just wants to amend the call to meeting for 18 instead of 14, and then we can move forward.
Motion to amend.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's get back to this. When did it go from 18 feet to 21.7 feet?
It was never built at 18. It was built at 21 feet.
So you don't have the benefit of the non-conforming use. It never complied with the old code.
Right, but what we intend to do and what Aldo suggested is that garage has to be reconfigured. The roof basically has to come off and reconfigured so that the maximum height is 18. I have the plans that Aldo had looked at.
Vested at 18.
I'm
You
sorry.
don't get the
You're not
benefit.
vested at 18. You don't have vested rights at 18 feet. You never were 18 feet.
You never were 18 feet.
Right, so you didn't have a permit or CO, fine. But it never was 18 feet, so you can't say you want to go back and establish a non-conforming use because it never complied. It never was grandfathered.
It was never legal.
It was never legal.
Or never, and not only was it never legal, it never complied with the code. I mean, let's put the legality with the COs and the permits aside for a second. It never existed with, at any point during its existence, it never existed within compliance with code. And then thereafter, it was never thus made illegal by later adoption of a more stringent code. You don't get the benefit of grandfathering, unfortunately, if you never were there. You know what I'm saying?
I understand, but our application is amended to see if we can obtain permission to keep it at 18 feet.
I think that you would be better off going with a variance application than a non-conforming use application.
He is.
I don't think either would
That's-
work, but-
This hasn't been submitted. This hasn't been submitted as to establish a legal non-conforming use. The application package would be different if that were the case. This has
Right.
been submitted.
Oh, I
as-
thought he was amending it.
He's likening it to a non-conforming
Yeah,
use.
it was submitted prior to me getting involved, and then COVID hit. I met with Aldo several times. We drew up, Aldo had looked at some plans that we drew up, which he liked, which reduces the square footage of the total area to 975 square feet between upstairs and downstairs of the garage, and the dwelling is 976 square feet. This is just the plans that was looked at by Aldo, and he suggested that's the way we should be going.
Thank you, sir.
So when the board heard this case on June 4th, 2019, the board suggested to the applicant that they try to come up back with a better application, and that's what we're doing now, right?
Correct.
It's just that some time has passed, so it's not upfront in anybody's memory.
Mr. Lecari, I'm still stuck on the 18th.
We broke the law a little, but my client came to this country and no, we're trying to minimize the total effect. It's an argument, and we're trying to establish something that is reasonable under the circumstances and nature and character of the neighbor. The neighbors are not going to disapprove of this. Right. The lot size itself, it's a flag-shaped lot, as you guys are aware of with the surveying. And that's one of the reasons for a number of relaxations required. The shed is gone, so we could take that off the table. Part of the application was for a shed. No, not in the back. There was one next to the garage. Yes, and that has been removed. Yes. That's correct. No, this is pretty much it. Everything that's requested is kind of because of the configuration of the lot as a flag-shaped lot. I have some photos of the property, the patio, which are pavers. You can see what we're talking about if you don't have pictures of that. The brick patio is included in these photos. It shows the patio built around the house. There's only a 5-foot section that actually encroaches to that borderline. That is in the back next to the decorative pond. And the pond is in full compliance. The pond is only 50 square feet and about 13 inches deep. These are some photos of the pictures of the driveway looking back, the garage, the structure, the dwelling. And then this one also, please. I'm sorry? The gross floor area of the garage with lowering the roof will be 975 square feet, according to the plans that Aldo looked at. That's between the garage area and the second floor as reduced. The house itself is 976. Okay. Okay. The dwelling is it's under the, yes. But the footprint of the house is 976.04 feet, I believe.
We're somewhat where we think we need to be. Deirdre from planning.
The garage, it's going to be 2 stories, but substantially reduced in terms of height. The second story is going to be 11.5 by 26. There'll be collar beams in there by the knee walls. That'll reduce the effective area to, I think it was 299 square feet on the second floor. It's still a rec room and a storage area.
Mr. Licari, so they're rebuilding this garage?
They have to.
So, I'm sorry?
Yes, they will.
So why don't they just build it so it complies?
It's been a rec room for the children. If you look at the photographs, it's really a.
We don't like kids up here, so. I
Come
just,
here to get away from it.
yeah.
I like kids. I like kids.
I just don't know how we
That probably
grant
came out wrong. I
18
don't
feet.
like
We never do, because that allows a second floor. Yeah,
If we put the collar beams in,
right.
if we put the collar beams in as Aldo suggested, if you look at the plan, it shows collar beams. The effective height is then reduced to 4.5 feet.
But you heard what our expert said. Deidre said that second structures are not supposed to have habitable space.
If it's under 4, if it's 4.5 feet, I don't believe that's considered habitable.
There must be really little kids.
Well, it's still going to be storage. The kids are getting older now, and it's storage. But
They
our
didn't grow
intention is to put the collar beams in. As you can see on the plans that were submitted, it shows collar beams at 4.5 feet.
Mr. Clary, I just got to ask a question, and I'm not trying to be difficult, but these pictures that you sent in, they have drafting tables, it looks like an office up there. There's commercial construction vehicles in the garage.
It's no
below
longer
it.
there. That was in 2018. That's not there anymore. None of that is there.
But, Mr. Licari, I understand the application, but everything they're seeking to do is what the code attempts to prohibit. We're just trampling on the code. I mean, I'm looking at those photographs.
Well, these photographs are in the file from the commencement of the application in 2018.
Yeah, I didn't submit those photographs.
I don't know that you intended for these photos to be looked through right now, but in 2019, when the board looked through them, they said, you have to go away and come back with better.
Yeah.
Do we have new photos that shows none of this yet?
I did not take photos from the inside, no. I could submit those.
I just my opinion, we still have to vote on it as a board, but I would like to reserve and really look at this, but I would love for you to, if we do reserve, if we do decide to, I would like for you to have some time to resubmit up-to-date photos. If you're saying this is not the way it is now,
Okay.
I would like to see that. I think it would help
All
your
right, and
argument.
the way it's going to end up, if we get approved, you're going to have these collar beams that are 4.5 feet
But
tall.
if it's not going to be habitable space.
Storage then.
But why do you need the extra 4 feet if it's not going to
The
be
house
habitable?
is only 976 square feet.
Well, the house is 976.
So, but I'm
Size
saying,
of the house.
you didn't answer my question, or at least I didn't hear it.
I'm sorry.
If you're not going to use the space, who cares about lolly columns or whatever they're called?
Collar beams.
What are they called?
I think collar beams, I think they're
Oh,
called.
collar beams. Okay, yes, I've heard that term. If you're not going to use it, then why don't you just make it 14 feet? If it's not going to be used.
I see your point, but
Yeah.
we're looking for the 18 feet.
I
It's
got you.
easier
No,
for
you're
storage.
doing your job as a
Yeah,
lawyer.
I'm just,
Yep.
and again, we're going back, I know the application is a little bit thwarted, but we're going back to what the code existed when this property was built. And I know it has, you have reservations on that, but.
I've said enough on that issue.
TJ, I don't remember 5 minutes ago if I cut you off when you were talking about this or not. I apologize if I did. No, I didn't.
Deidre, I can't really hear you, I'm sorry.
Reserve it. Let him send pictures in.
Yeah.
It is he does, Mr. O'Carroll does have an argument regarding the time it was built. I would like to look into this a little deeper on our own time if the board is okay with that.
Works for me.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Come on up, please, one at a time. Name and address for the record. Watch your step. Don't trip down this wonderful auditorium that we have here with great acoustics and lighting.
This is.
Hi, I'm the homeowner, Lisa Lorenko. I do apologize. I do follow the law. What had happened at that time is that my husband is a Portuguese immigrant, didn't know much about the law. I left it up to him because I was dealing with my son who was newly diagnosed with autism. My mistake, but I just wanted you to know that my intent was never to disregard the law. I left it up to my husband who had zero knowledge about codes, and I didn't know that. So,
Sure, no, we appreciate your time. We're not here to scold anyone about that. We have a code to, don't be upset about it. We have a code to uphold, and we just have to get the entire story and then decide as a board on it. So
well,
I
it's hard
appreciate
for me to speak about my son's autism. So that's,
Understood,
yeah.
understood. Have a great night. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Come on down, please. Name and address for the record.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
I'm good. Just come say.
Just your name and address, please.
My name is Seneng Matute. My address is 1014 Illinois Avenue.
Could you say your name again slowly?
Seneng Matute.
Could you just spell it, please, for the record?
Senen Matute, Matute.
Thank you, sir.
Just I come and say he's a good neighbor. He's cleaning, and also he's doesn't bother me, you know.
Doesn't bother you?
Yeah.
Great, that's a good name.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application?
Nicola's neighbors can't say that.
Hi, my name is Emily Mejia. I am her neighbor too. My address is 204 Bayshore, New York, 11706.
How are you tonight?
What do you say? Mejia, Mejia. Okay, so I have almost 7 years living there. I know already her house. Two things most what I love in her house, I want to be honest, is her location, and plus that I love the garage too. Yeah, because of the what I think is like for you guys maybe can look like a too high or so ridiculous the higher it is. But I am a single mother, and the high that garage is very, very good for me because she's next to my property. In that create for me more privacy. And plus that when you have house and the house keep already all the things they have already, it's like you create a sentimental value, you know. It's something is most important. The what I mean is the high, lower, or whatever. That's my opinion, and that's what I think.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Just name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is George Arujo, last name's Araujo. I currently reside 136 Core Road in Kings Park, but I used to live at 128 Missouri Avenue, just a couple blocks from Antonio's house. And as far as I can remember, it was maybe built around 2004. I mean, I left Bayshore in 2005, but I know it was there in 2004, the garage.
So you're saying it's been, that garage, that height, that size has been there since 2004, you said?
As far as I can remember.
So you
yeah.
remember? And you left in 2005, you said?
5, yeah.
Great. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
I do have some letters from some of the people that have seen this property that know the age, approximate age of the garage. And I have several copies. You can distribute those amongst the members of the board.
All right, does anyone else, one second, Mr. Lukai, does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Okay. Thank you, sir.
I would ask that the board really consider the uniqueness of this property and their, whatever decision they make, the neighbors and the responses to what is there, and really the neighborhood. This is one of the nicer homes in the neighborhood. And as you can see from the garage, it was built high-end. It was not built to be a typical garage, obviously.
Great. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicoli, I'll take a motion.
Motion to reserve decision.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would like to give Mr. LeCarry some time. We need 2 weeks to submit
Some more pictures from the
the
inside?
pictures, yeah, 2
Of
weeks?
course.
Current pictures, yeah.
Okay, okay, thank
2
you.
weeks?
2 weeks.
All right, so the reserve starts at that date once you submit, all right? So
That's fine.
Okay, great. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a
Happy
good night.
Thanksgiving.
Have a good night. Number 459, adjourned from June 21st, 2020 and July 12th, 2022. John DeRilli. Permission to erect two-story dwelling on a lot having effective lot area of 8,899 square feet instead of required 11,250 square feet. Wetlands yield of 0.1875 instead of required 1. Leaving side yard 11 feet instead of required 14 feet. Floor area ratio of 29.14 feet instead of required 25%. And first floor elevation of 10.86 feet instead of required, instead of permitted 9 feet. To erect retaining walls 5.35 in height on front and side property lines instead of required setback of 5.35 feet each. And to exceed compensation excavation provision 68-422A3C by proposing 249 cubic yards of surplus fill into floodplain, Resident A District in Oakdale.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is Mark Anthony Monastery, architect. My address is 1563 Belmore Avenue, Belmore, New York.
How are you tonight, sir?
Fantastic. Thank you. So we're back. We had some things straightened out with the buildings department as far as the percentage they were counting originally, the attic space above. So we added a second collar tie to remove that. So we're looking to build a new home. This is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath residence with a garage. There's some storage above it because obviously where it's located, there's no ability for a basement. We're also not meeting the side yard requirements. And additionally for the both drainage as well as the for a second, the system, the Coltex system that we're installing, which is a chamber system that goes in the front yard. So we want to build retaining walls so we're not pitching any of the water off onto any of the neighbors.
You have to catch all the water, correct?
Yes, sir. That's the reasons for that.
That's the reason, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
That is the reasons for that retaining wall. Once we put the Coltex system down, we only have a foot above that of actual soil. Otherwise, the grade would pitch off and would be pitching into everyone's property.
I don't remember this. I do and I don't, but whatever that means.
It was at a very high percentage, at somewhere around 37%, because they were counting the attic space above.
Here's what I'm looking at, and it just kind of jumps off the page at me, where we have a wetlands yield calculation of 18/100ths when it should be a full 1%. I mean, that's a drastic reduction. What do we hang our hats on were we to grant this?
I apologize. Can you say that last part again? I just didn't hear you.
It says wetlands yield calculation of 0.1875.
Right.
So I just rounded that to 18%. Or, all right, we'll call it 18/100ths instead of 1/0. So that's a tremendous reduction. What do we justify granting that much of reduction in the wetlands yield?
I mean, from what I understand, we're not reducing any of the wetlands.
I'm just it
Yes,
says-
I understand that.
So
That
you
wasn't
want-
on the original.
But it's before us,
Yes, sir.
so we can't just ignore it or pretend it's not there.
Maybe Deirdre can clarify.
It's I guess we could figure out, it's
We're
a
staying-
72% reduction.
We're staying within our 75 feet.
82.
It's an 82% relaxation.
82, I understand.
I don't know how, if this was 2.8 or 3.8 or 4.8, this is 82%. I don't know how we take the wetlands provision and throw it out the window and toss it into the wetlands. No, we can't do that.
Of course, of course.
How do we justify it?
Again, we're not touching, and we're staying within our 75 feet. We're not touching any of the wetlands.
No,
That
but
must be
you don't have
existing.
to touch the wetlands. There's a relaxation, a wetlands yield. And your application needs such a variance. I don't know how we can grant it.
Can I ask one question? Just looking at the aerial, Deirdre, maybe you can answer this. The property to the east, I would say, it appears somewhat, no, the left, I'm sorry, the west. I apologize. As appears a somewhat same size property, if you want to say that. Does that have any yield reduction next to it?
It's, yeah, it's bulkheaded, right, Deirdre? Property to the east is fully bulkheaded?
So this property is not going to be bulkheaded or is not bulkheaded? And what's your, I'm assuming you have some objection from planning. You want to speak on it?
Not yet, no.
So you're here prior to that?
Yes.
I don't know, but what would the DEC say? Are you serious? What's the point of having this?
I would like to see, before even if they do somehow get passed by this board, they would not be able to build without DEC.
That's correct.
I don't even know if the DEC would, or if they make them
Do you-
all these other.
Do you think it'd be beneficial? Yeah. I think, do you think it'd be beneficial that you possibly take an adjournment till you go into to check out with DEC if this is even feasible?
Yes, I'm sorry, there's someone talking behind me.
I know, I heard that too.
Sir, on the phone. Sir, no, he doesn't. You can't.
Do you think I should check with the DEC
I,
first?
I would think that that's probably,
I don't know how they're going to grant this. I mean, I've dealt with the DEC and you could need a 0.1% relaxation and they won't grant it. I don't know how they're going to say 82, not a problem. Also, if they built a bulkhead, that wouldn't change the wetlands relaxation, would it?
Not the wetlands,
Yeah.
but it might change the atmosphere we're bringing in, it might change where leaching ponds need to go, or any of the retaining walls. It might change the one transect.
Would it potentially stabilize the property?
They won't get one.
They won't.
The DEC won't get one.
The DEC, yeah.
The DEC is kind of moving away from the bulkhead because it's
Right. I just think it's too much of a relaxation considering the DEC is to protect the wetlands and you're going to ask them to say, well, give me an 82% relaxation.
well, why don't, if you would like, it's up to you, obviously. I think that the voice of the board is saying possibly take an adjournment
I hear that.
and check with the DEC. And then at that point, we'll know a little better. You'll know a little better of where you can possibly go with this.
1 second.
Yep.
Sorry.
This keeps coming back. Yeah, you're right.
It seems that the owner of the property has spoken to the DEC. They're waiting on you, so I'm going to speak with the DEC.
They're waiting on us? I don't
No. the
I don't know if that
DEC
works that way.
Can I just say?
You could say.
I don't know, yeah, I don't know what correspondence or communications had. The DEC never waits on us. They do what works in their milieu. They don't care about us. And we don't care about them, so there. But no, they don't wait
Fair
on
enough.
us. They're not gonna say,
Okay.
they're not going to say, I just give you this piece of advice, little. They're not going to say, oh, if the town said, okay, we're okay. That's never gonna happen. But it's your choice.
All right, well, I believe before we give the adjournment or vote on the adjournment, does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Anyone? Whoever wants to come up can come up and name and address for the record, please.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
John Dorelli, owner of the property, residing at 36 Hollow Drive, Holbrook. Beside myself, obviously, my representative architect here. I've been trying to obtain this permit so I could live there. I understand your concerns completely. What you just said just before, sir, they said exactly the same to me. Like what you said, we don't care about them. That's how they exactly told me that we don't care about you.
What was on this property before?
Nothing. They've never been built.
Typically, you would submit the applications.
We have
at the same
open,
time.
yes, we have open application.
Do you have any comments from the DEC? Any comment letters? Any idea which way they're going, and when they can make a decision?
No, we just submit the applications 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so what I was suggesting to your architect was why don't we to give you an adjournment and hear what they have to say first? Because right now, what you're asking for here, from our standpoint, is not good. So if the DEC says, well, they can do this, that, and the other thing, then we can possibly look at it and say, all right, well, maybe if DEC says that, we can look at it this way or that way, but we don't know what the DEC is going to say. And in our opinion, professional opinion, we don't think the DEC is going to say anything positive about it, but we don't know that. We're not the DEC. And to correct Mr. Wexler's words, not that I'm trying to correct him at all, but we do care about the DEC and they do care about us. We're just trying to make this application go easier for you.
I appreciate it.
Down the road.
Also, keep in mind, the DEC may very well change your application. And the relief that you're requesting, you may have to come back to us later for more relief. The DEC may say, no, you should do this, you should do that. You know, they love to tell people what to do with their property.
But I don't think you're going to give them anywhere near that relax.
But they may not, but they may. You don't know.
But,
They may change the application completely.
I mean, I don't expect you to remember, but there's quite a few places that's been granted by this board on the Shore Drive. It's very, very similar. I'm not questioning you why or this and that. My question is, are you able to remember? Did you come across to similar cases in the past, most recently, a few years?
I would venture to say we've never granted a wetlands yield of 82%. I've been on the board about 15 years.
Okay, that's what I'm
I
asking.
never recall that. But if you have cases that we have, it would certainly be helpful.
No, I would imagine they had to come here. That's what I'm just asking. I don't know, not as in why.
You asked, and my answer is I never remember granting 82% wetlands yield relaxation.
Well, I would have to think, and as I said before, the property that's constructed next to your property must have some, or possibly may have some yield relaxation too. We don't see that at the time. Maybe it was prior to the wetlands yield relaxation being this extreme. So that's something that I believe that DEC will help out figuring out also.
Okay, now, it's kind of hearsay, but I can confirm it for sure. The property that I purchased from the owner, the person I purchased it from,
Sure.
actuality is 100 by 150. Basically, all the way to the the halfway point to the waterways.
Yeah.
So over the years in 60s and 70s, while they owned this property, back then, obviously, they were under all the excavation. They basically digged literally, dirt away to make the place like a cul-de-sac, like dead end, looks like right now. Now, I guess it's been because of that, it never been, this property never got involved with something like this. So now for me to go to DEC, I will go to DEC, and then if they just come up with in the 70s records, where is the half of land go? Because they've been excavated all along.
Yeah, that's something for them to have to determine, sir. That'd be
So-
something for them.
Would that create more problem?
I don't
For
know. We're
me,
not
I
the
mean-
DEC. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know. I just think that it would benefit you in your application with your design professional if you found out first. We'll give you an adjournment, find out first what the DEC says, and then you can, I think it may change, as Mr. Nicoli said, I think it may drastically change your application, but we don't know that. We're not DEC.
Okay, I appreciate it. We will follow up your recommendations and try to come back.
Yeah.
Second adjournment, I guess.
Great. You have a great Thanksgiving.
Okay,
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Make a motion to adjourn, give an open date.
Second.
All in favor? Whenever you hear something back, you can come back and speak to Mary or Joanne at the office and put a date on the calendar. Great. Have a great night. Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, next and last.
Oh, yeah, we got 2-second calls. Really quick. Hold on, 2-second
Okay.
calls. 846.22.
8:40. Okay. Second call, 846, Luz Aquamides Galeas. Hello?
846-22.
Luz Aquamides Galeas. Going
So-
once, going twice.
All right, then I
Okay.
have the neighbors,
Yeah, we want to pick a date that works for them,
so we'll get,
so they don't have to come again. Like, so we want to pick a.
come on up,
Convenient
sir.
convenient for them?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Yes, absolutely.
The applicant has not shown up, that we know of anyway. No one has come forward. So we're going to choose a date that's convenient for you also to come back. So I'm sure you want to speak on it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the last date for this calendar year is December 6th. We'll do our best to be sure the applicant is here, and if they're not, if they can't make that date, then I imagine we'll be dismissing the application, right?
I think that would be
Yeah.
fair, yes.
So let me understand, December 6th, we'll do this again. If they don't show, what happens to the application?
Then we dismiss it.
They dismiss it. Okay.
All right, sorry about
Just a
that.
quick question. Do you have the photo of the property in question?
I don't think we can even hear it if they're not here. We can't even hear it if they're not here. I apologize about that.
All right, time.
All right?
December
o'clock.
6th, what time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock,
Yeah,
all right.
I'm sure you get another notice, right? Or no? You'll get another notice.
And if you want to review in records, you can go to the zoning board office.
Yeah, you can view the file.
You can
Will-
look at the file.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
All right, have a great night. Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay,
The last second call is this one. 843-22.
8:43, okay.
Yes, they were waiting.
Our second call is Mary El Nakib. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-602, leaving second front door in violation of Section 68-610B, and to leave roof double porch having front yard of 38.8 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 34 feet.
It's 33.8.
30, did I say,
said
30,
38.
check that, 33.8 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 34 feet, residential AA district Bay Shore.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rudolph Shitara, R. Shitara Consulting Engineers, PC, 6500 Jericho Turnpike, Syosset, New York, 11791.
How are you tonight?
I am doing wonderful. Pardon me? Shitara, Shatarah, just like Smith, by the way.
Nice Irish name.
Yes.
How are you tonight, sir?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Today we are humbly requesting the relief of the accessory apartment, permission for accessory apartment to maintain, and second front door also to maintain, and an encroachment on what they call it, the of porch, 34 feet to 28 feet or so, also to maintain. These things were just let you know they've been in existence for 24 years, and things whatever led to this situation, we come here, we prepared drawings, and obviously we needed relief for those things.
So, sir, the code, I believe for this purpose, the code does not, the Islip Town Code does not allow second front doors, two front doors in the front of a dwelling.
I understand.
So moving the door around the side for the, I'm assuming that second door is for the accessory apartment?
Yes.
Yep, so they don't want that on the front. That's the reason, the intent of the code, in my opinion, is this exact reason right here. So moving the door around to the side?
Let me ask if it's, I think if it helps,
It
if
does
it
have
helps
the-
our
it-
situation, yes,
It is-
absolutely.
yeah.
Would you move the door to the side? Is that a big issue?
You're going to have to move the door to the side. I'm not trying to be rude, I just,
No,
it's
no,
not.
no. I fully understand that. I just have to,
Yes.
I don't want
And they
to
agree to
answer
do
on his
that?
behalf.
They agree to do that?
Yes.
Great
Good.
decision.
All right, great. So second front door is going to be moved, that's great. Roofed over porch, 33.8 instead of 34, that's the minimus. And apartment, 723.07 feet, square feet, driveway complies, everything seems to be in order, other than that second front door to be moved. Does anyone wish to hear this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr., who am I picking here? Mr. Nicolia, take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for the accessory apartment for a period of 3 years, deny that portion of the application related to the second front door, and to grant the balance of the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, may I ask one other question? Once he moves the front door, we don't have to come back here. We'll just go to the building.
Unless you want to come
department.
see us,
Of course.
hang
you
out
know,
with
it's-
us,
it's
you're more
great.
than welcome.
It's great. I just have to put my GPS correct. I did 41 instead of 401, so I was down that way and running around. I apologize for being late, by the way, and thank you for permission for us.
You're good once you move that front door. They'll come out and inspect it, and they'll know what the deal is.
You
So,
got it. Thank you very much.
have a great holiday. Take
Appreciate
care.
it. You too.
And last, 848 Faithful Farms LLC. Need a deep breath to read this. Permission to leave 3 corrals, 31 by 41 feet, corral 30 by 41 feet, and corral 31 by 36 irregular, and corral 27 by 20 irregular, located in front yard, and to leave corral 16 by 42 feet, corral 30 by 35 irregular, and frame horse stable 10 by 24 located inside yard instead of required location behind
His
rear
fancy book.
line of dwelling to leave all 15 corrals with fence height of 4 feet instead of required 5 feet, to leave corral approximately 198 by 120 feet, having side yard of 1.7 feet and required 1.8 feet instead of required 10 feet each, to leave corral 181 by 126 in the front yard where prohibited, and leaving a side yard of 2.3 feet instead of minimum required 10 feet, to leave detached storage structures in front yard instead of 20 feet behind the front line of dwelling, to leave dumpster storing manure, having side yard of 5.2 feet instead of required 30 feet, and an interpretation as requested to determine if use of the stable larger than the dwelling is subordinate to the dwelling, to determine if use, is subordinate to the dwelling, residence AA District, Central Islip, New York.
Mr. Russo, correct? I know you're,
How are you?
I just would hate to see you trip up and down those stairs. So if you don't mind giving them to this gentleman next time, because these stairs are not the greatest over here.
Oh, he's young and spry.
I know he is. I'm not saying it for that. I miss it's they're kind of just,
Thank you. Oh, look at that. Mr. President, oh, okay.
good evening, again.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. I haven't had the August opportunity before you in quite some time due to COVID and other reasons. This application started in 2018. You had heard it. It was presented by a contractor and his expediter, who are a husband and wife team. The applicant, who is with us this evening, is the property owner. And we're here as you allowed us to bring back the application on a written request that we provided you in August. As we were making substantial revisions and we looked at the record, we looked at Mr. Burgos's comments regarding the subject application, and we spoke with the applicant and tried to address all of the concerns that this board brought up at the time. That being said, my name is Eric Russo. I'm with the law firm of Van Brunt, Jesuiak and Russo, with offices at 140 Main Street, Sayville, New York. I'm representing the applicant, Faithful Farms LLC, and specifically the property owners, who are the managing members of the application, Lisa and Richard Fleischman. I have two affidavits from the two individuals, which we emailed to the Planning and Zoning Department, but I'm going to hand the originals up and pass them up. And before I do, they indicate I, Richard Fleischman, and the other, I, Lisa Lodici Fleischman, being duly sworn, hereby submit this affidavit of residency in support of the Islip Town Zoning Board of Appeals application of Faithful Farms LLC, and state I reside at the property located at 252 Alwood Avenue, Central Islip, reciting the tax map number. The owner of the premises is Faithful Farms LLC by deed from Richard Fleischman and Lisa Lodici Fleischman, dated July 28, 2014, which was the year in which they acquired the property as recorded in September of 2014. They're a member of the Faithful Farm LLC, that they own 12 horses which are used for their care, personal use, and enjoyment, and are maintained on the premises in designated areas. And the horses are not associated with any commercial enterprise whatsoever, and the premises continues to be maintained as a personal residence. I'm providing you with these two affidavits. They're notarized within the last week by our office. In addition, what I wanted to point out as far as the call of the meeting is concerned, having visited the site, looked at aerials, which I believe Deirdre Ryan has one up there to my left. The area is and has been, going back to maybe 1919, been known as an equestrian area here in the town of Islip. When I was at the site with Mr. Breslin on Saturday, visiting the site and trying to ascertain the criteria for this variance application we had before you, as I was there for about an hour and a half, I must have seen 8 to 10 horses either being ridden and going into the Connecticut State Park or going from the people's residences in the area. So what I discerned is at first I thought this was just one individual on one particular property, out of character with everything else, and that perhaps when I read the minutes and saw what the concerns were of the zoning board, perhaps they were right. However, what I discerned, having visited the site and looking at the information that was provided and discussing it with Mr. Breslin and looking at your town code, I came to the realization that this application request that the applicant is looking forward to you reviewing and granting the relief that he seeks is one that's meritorious of your consideration. I wanted to point out to you again the history. This application has been before you on 3 occasions. In 2016, it was case 82416 for permission to erect a detached garage, leaving a front yard of 140 feet, not having 20 feet behind a front line of the dwelling, and it was granted by this zoning board of appeals. 2018, it was again before you for 15 corrals of varying sizes in front yard instead of behind the rear yard line of the dwelling. And you looked at it both on August the 21st and then on October the 2nd. And at that particular time, on October the 2nd, you deemed, and it was brought by the contractor and his wife, the expediter, who didn't provide a lot of information or didn't give you answers to your respective questions. So what you did at the time is you kind of directed them back and said, it sounds like this might be a commercial operation and perhaps maybe you should be seeking a change of zone. It shouldn't be for the board. So at that time, you denied the application. And the reason I bring that up is because when I was discussing the application with the planning department, Ms. Deirdre Ryan, I was told, well, there's not a lot of precedent in the area here. And in addition to that, the application was denied. But the application wasn't denied based on the merits of what was being put before it. It was based on discussion about how the application should be addressed and what needed to go forward. That being said, I wrote a letter on August 31st and outlined to you all the various changes and issues that I saw from Dan Burgos' zoning denial and also your concerns from the 2 hearing minutes that went on in 2018. And you found it within your view that we should have a hearing this evening and that we should go forward as you cited in the call. With me tonight is John Breslin, Breslin Appraisal Company, who is my zoning expert and will assist me in elaborating on 267B under New York State Town Law. And what I wanted to point out to you is that I've just handed you a binder. And that binder, in it, it shows various documents that relate to the subject property. It shows you the zoning history that went on to get us here. It also shows you photographs of which there are 27 of the site area itself, showing you all the different corrals, the residence, the garage, the barn stable, the greenery structure, also the manure structure, as well as a shed that's on the subject property with the pasture area, as well as the corrals that are there that are subject of this hearing. In addition, there are 23 photos of area residents. When I say area residents, I went around the neighborhood and looked at the properties in question. There was 240, 215, 266, 276, 275, 205, 230, 88, 80, as well as 85. They range between Allwood Avenue and what would be Deer Path Road. And I've labeled them in the photographs so that you can see them if we decide to reference them. So in all, you have 50 photographs of the subject area, and that would be helpful and assist with Mr. Breslin's presentation. I've also, and I'm going to hand up to you, we obtained 17 letters in support and 1 letter in opposition to the subject application. I have the original letters that were delivered to our office, and I'll give it to your guard to bring up. And they're from those people in the neighborhood. John Craig, who's the executive director of Long Island Youth Mentoring, who was someone that had visited the property with his church group on various occasions. 215, James Gallagher, Pastor Jim.
Mr. Russo, you don't have to go through every one of them. If you just, that would
Then
save a
I'll
lot of
hand them
time.
up and you can read them at your,
Yes.
at
that'll
your
be part of the
pleasure.
record. Thank you.
That being said, I would like to take the opportunity then to go through the issues as they relate to 1227 of the Islip Town Code under Section A. The first issue is there should not be more than 2 horses or ponies or equine, and in this particular case, the subject property, as you are seeing on the survey that I provided, is 121,780 square feet or 2.7957 acres. That entitles the property owner to have a total of 12 horses on the lot because your code indicates no more than 2 horses, ponies, or equine with every 20,000 square feet of land. The next section talks about the square feet of the stall space for each animal that is being maintained, and it indicates that it's 50 square feet, and we've demonstrated that we have that based on the stall space in the barn. The next section under 3 talks about a stable cannot be located less than 50 feet from any dwelling or dwelling located on the same plot of land, and the residence is not. The residence, based on the certificate of occupancy, shows that it was created in 1936. And it also shows that one of the stables was created in 1936, which I believe is just around the time that your code came into existence in the first instance. And as I was indicated, and the property owner can explain to you, 1919, the Smithtown Hunt Club used to have the property and the area and used it for equestrian and hunting. That being said, any stable under 4 has to be located on the rear line of any dwelling house located on the SOM plot as the stable and set back a minimum of 10 feet from any property line. That's the call of the meeting. That's where we're having an issue. Because given the situation of where the house was first constructed in 1936, with no additions put on it, only renovations, there's no way we could comply with that given the corrals, and that's why we're here asking you for that relief. As far as the corrals, they have to have a minimum of 400 square feet per animal, and they have to have a fence height of not less than 5 feet. In this particular instance, what I've learned is that the fence height on the majority of the corrals is 4 feet, and that's what we have in the call of the meeting. Mr. Fleischman and his wife did not create the fence height when they bought the property. Fence height and corrals were there, and they're maintaining what was there. They did not realize through representation during the sale that they didn't and may not have had the proper certificate of occupancy or compliance for the structures on the site. And thus, we've been dealing with that from after they arrived there and going forward through today, which is why we're here for relief. As the number 6, it talks about adequate plastic, wooden, or metal containers for the storage of manure. And in the photographs, you will see that they do have that. And the manure is removed weekly by Winter Brothers. However, the manure, unlike your next section under 6A, says it has to be 30 feet from a property line. Unfortunately, it's probably based on the survey within 2 to 3 feet of the property line on the west side. However, the property owner on the other side at 240, Mr. Sanchez, has no objection. He wrote a letter in support of this particular application. And the Fleischmans have, and he encroached on their property and have provided them an easement for his fencing and some of his other items that are abutting their particular property. It also requires that everything is removed weekly, and as I indicated, Winter Brothers does do that. All grain feed type under number 7 is kept or stored in rodent-proof containers, which it is. There is no equine that is permitted to remain unattended in any front or side yard. No horse, pony, or equine under number 9 is ridden, led, or permitted on any sidewalk. Number 10 relates to dead equine. If there is any, it has to be disposed of, but there are none. It's only the 12 animals that he and his wife.
I'm sorry, Mr. Russo. I don't, the numbers you're saying, 8, 9, 10, I don't see them in the call of the calendar.
It's not. I'm referring to Mr. Wexler, Brick Islip Town Code, section 12-27. How this, and this section is called equine, livestock, pigeons, and poultry. That being said, this section of the Islip Town Code dictates the fence height, dictates the corrals, dictates the stable size, dictates all of the issues that Mr. Burgos then put in his denial, which is why we're here before you. Mr. Breslin will go through 267B and talk about those elements, but I'm trying to relate to you what we've complied with, what we haven't complied with, so we can get to your denial that Mr. Burgos gave you. That being said, the last section is that the owner of the equine livestock is to produce upon demand proof of compliance with all applicable county, state, and federal regulations as to the testing, inoculation, and evacuation of equine livestock. And Mr. and Mrs. Fleischman do have that and do maintain their stock according to federal, county, and state regulations. And the last is number 12, where it indicates that they need to produce on demand a valid permit for equine livestock, and a permit is to be issued by the Islip Town Building. Mr. and Mrs. Fleischman have applied regularly for this on an annual basis and have been denied because they don't have the necessary zoning approvals that they need from this board to grant the relief to get it. I myself did a FOIL of those records about 6 weeks ago, and I was told no permits were issued, but they did show that permits were filed and returned in every instance for the subject property. That being said, I just want to move on from there and allow you, if you don't have questions, to let Mr. Breslin speak to the issues here at hand.
I have one question, if you don't mind.
Unless you have questions.
One quick question.
Certainly.
The property seems beautiful. What they do seems godlike and beautiful also. But the first few letters state that they conduct activities on your client's property. So churches, coalitions, and you're stating that this is not used
There's
anything
no
other than
there's
personal use.
Correct. There's no remuneration. These are, as I indicated, horses that have been acquired by Mr. and Mrs. Fleischman for their own personal use, and they have them there. And and they've offered to children and those organizations who want to come and see the horses to allow them at no cost to come and experience the corrals and the horses. They don't ride them. They don't pet them. They're kept a distance from them, and they're there. And the church group and the other organizations appreciate the ability. And when he related to them that there were concerns about getting approvals to maintain their property, they wanted to come and support. And so they asked to write letters if that would be helpful. So I said, as long as we're not relating it to a commercial structure. And a
Wait, Mr.
commercial
Russo, just
one quick
I'm
second.
sorry, go ahead, yeah.
Right here, for years, this property has been conducting activities aligned with business and non-residential purposes. Just write a
That's
letter.
probably from the one letter of the individual who is in opposition. There's one letter in opposition, and that particular letter I provided because you can't run away from what someone's going to say, and I received a copy of it from the Islip Town Zoning Board of Appeals, and that letter came today, which I got a copy of, and I believe that's the one from the...
But while you're just looking for that, you're saying that people just come to look at the horses? They don't ride them, they don't touch them, they don't smell them, they just look at them?
I can let Mr.
never heard-
Fleischman describe what takes place.
That's fine. I would love to hear from them. The letter that's not in opposition is a Long Island Youth Mentoring.
That's one of the groups that has come.
Yeah, it basically states that they provide opportunities for mentors and troubled youth, I believe it says here, to come to the property. Opportunity of a mentor, receive homework help, go on day trips and go away for 1 week of summer camp. That's what they do. But they actually provide trips to this property, which I think is wonderful, but it's not, this looks to me as being used as commercial business like.
I'll let Mr. Fleischman answer your question.
Also, just another question. Doesn't the applicant have to maintain insurance in case somebody
Yes.
gets, and so they absorb all of that on their own?
They do. And the reason they formed and switched the property from their individual names to the LLC in 2014 was they were advised that by their insurance agent as well as their accountant and their attorney at the time to make sure that it was insulated under the LLC. That was the information that was provided to me by the applicant.
Would these organizations, I don't know what we're going to do with this, would they submit a letter that is non-remuneration?
Yes, they would.
If I may.
Did you have another
Additionally,
question?
Just another question. The manure dumpster, 5.2 feet instead of 30 feet.
Correct.
That's a large relaxation.
And there's a photograph.
Where is it on the property?
There's a photograph I listed in there, and it shows you it's on the west side in alignment with the barn. So if you look at...
Isn't there a house next door? Yeah, but he could sell the house tomorrow and
He
it's
could.
there. I
He
mean, I
could,
have to
Mr. Wexler,
imagine-
you're absolutely correct.
I just have to imagine, and again, we're seeing this for the first time. I just have to imagine the town board said, a manure dumpster, we're going to need some distance to the property line. I mean, it's not like you're putting cardboard in it, you're putting manure, and 5 feet from 30. Wow.
And if you look at the photograph I provided you, you will see the containers that they're situated in. You'll see its location to the west property line. You'll see it located against a very large barn at 240 on Allwood Avenue. And you will also, and as I indicated, and he can produce, carting away of the manure and keeping it contained as required by town, county, and state standards is done weekly.
I know, but I have to assume they lose the contract, they get into a dispute with the carter, something changes, and you have a dumpster 5 feet from the property line. With manure.
And the other situation is that based on the property, the way they acquired it, there are very few locations where you have to keep it from the residents and the other structures that it can be situated. So that's part of the relief that's being sought this evening. And if you look at the photographs, you will see where the dumpster is, I mean, in terms of a manure container and the structure around it and what it's situated in. It's a very clear picture. I walked up to the top, took the photos, came down to the side, and took it on all the sides. And there was no smell, and I was there on Saturday on a beautiful afternoon.
They seem empty, the pictures.
What?
Yeah.
Actually, that was, we got to pick up on Monday.
I don't know, you know.
I saw on Saturday was picked up on Monday.
I'm not a horse
You
person.
you have 3 acres, 4 paddocks of it, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 paddocks, that you could find in better place.
Perhaps. In our opinion, the location where it's situated, that's why we're requesting the lease.
It was also the location where we took the property where
We-
the fence.
So we just need your name, we just
Could
need
you
your name
come
and
forward
address
and
for record
state
if you want to speak, just to make a clear record.
Sure.
State your name and address.
Richard Fleischman, 8 Turnberry Street, East Setauket, New York, 11733. I can answer a couple of
Did you,
questions.
I didn't say hear your address.
8 Turnberry Street, East Setauket, New York, 11723. It's my other residence.
You don't live at this
No,
property?
that's, we have 2 residences. We spend time in both locations.
You reside.
You-
I provided you with an affidavit where he indicates he resides at the address on Allwood Road as well.
Where's he registered to vote?
You see, that right off the bat, I'm just telling you what we're thinking, at least what I'm thinking. You have 2 residents. I don't know how much time you spend in each one, but there may be people who don't have that luxury of living in East Setauket, far from potential smells, and they're stuck there. And you have the ability to, and I don't know, you could tell me, oh, I only live in East Setauket 11 minutes a year, I time it. I don't know, and we'll never know, but it's just a number of issues we're going to have to work through. There's nothing wrong in living in East Setauket.
That's correct. And I can state for the record that I have 2 residences.
Yeah, but you
So-
don't have a dumpster full of manure, as far as I know, Eric.
All I can say is the residency issue is he resides at both residences, and he provided you with an affidavit to that.
You can have multiple residents,
You can have
which is his
multiple residents.
domicile.
I'm sorry?
You can have multiple residents, which is his domicile.
That's not in the statute. Your statute says residence. Doesn't say domicile. So
was just
we don't
asking.
need to concern ourselves in the United States of America today where one has the right to vote. We're here to discuss residency.
Yeah, but we're here to try to get a full understanding of everything.
And that's
if
why-
you don't want to tell us, you don't have to.
But we did tell you, we disclosed that
I
he has,
asked where he's domiciled.
that's irrelevant to this
Well,
application.
not really. It's somewhat relevant to the allegations that there's a commercial use here.
There is no commercial use here.
But Mr. Russo, and I appreciate what you're saying. I just, you gave an affidavit of residency, and then your client came up and gave us his name and address with a different address that he resides at.
And I'm sure if we
Um,
were to look, I'm sorry, I meant to interrupt you.
No, I'm just curious, and I understand what you're hanging your hat on.
I would have said both, sir.
Where do you vote?
I vote in my district at 87 over on East Setauket. You can't
And
be voting in 2 different places.
What is
so-
your, no, you can't. Where is your driver's license? I mean, these are all questions we want to know
Well, I've
because,
been in 8 Turnberry Street for 20 years, so that's where my driver's license.
is where is it? I'm in here.
I was at 8 Turnberry Street for over 20 years, so that's
In
where I
East Setauket.
established these things when I moved into this area. But we reside at both places. We spend time in both homes. It's a residence that we renovated. It was a cottage that was run down and falling in on itself. We turned it in, turned it around. It sits in the middle of the property, which kind of, as I mentioned, the dumpsters are sitting in the same spot that they have always been. We have folks that live right next door to us that have no problem with it. We're fastidious about our property and how clean we keep it. The two companies that, or the two organizations that you mentioned, the Long Island Youth Mentoring, I'm a member of. So they come and they use our property. They don't do trips. We bring them over. They come over on our invitation. They requested to do more with us, and towards that end, we're interested in getting certified to do, wellness with, vets and children, towards that end.
I think it's wonderful.
Yes.
Don't take offense to what I said.
No, not at all.
I just read these letters.
Yes.
And it seems to me that people are coming to your property
Yes.
for some other stuff than a barbecue with you and
Yeah,
your
that's
family.
that's pretty much what it is. They come over for a day, like the mentors. They come over because it's a one-on-one with the children. They have to be out of the house, away from the single parent. And this is something that they come over for a barbecue, and they get to see a demonstration in the ring.
Just had a
And then they
question,
go
Matt.
home.
Just had a question, Matt.
Yeah, same thing for the church. It's a church that I go to, and they come over for the same.
So Faithful Farms receives no
Absolutely not.
monies,
Not a dime. We
no,
put up all the money for the food, the entertainment, if there is.
Are you a registered charity
We are a registered charity.
with the Attorney General?
Yes, sir. 501c3.
and how, okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I was just curious.
Then I would ask, and if you don't have further questions at this time, to ask Mr. Breslin to come forward.
And I'm sorry, which is, I'm looking, it's gorgeous grounds. That's the house that you,
The house is in the center. They're both red. There's the stable that's red. It's on the west side. The house is smack in the center of the property with
This
this.
That's the house?
That's the residence.
It's the residence.
And that's in the center of the property. And it's been there since 1936.
Yeah.
according to the certificate of occupancy issued by the town of Lexington.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And the barn, which is to the left of it, also is there with certificate of occupancy since 1946. And there were 2 bump outs put onto the barn, which are shown in photographs.
This is the neighbor's, I see.
The neighbor's house, I showed you photos of the house that was questioned about where the location of the dumpster is, and that's number 240. That's Mr. Sanchez.
Great, thank you.
What I tried to do was provide you all of the homes in the row on the north and south side of Oldwood Avenue,
Yep.
going down to the cul-de-sac of Oldwood Court.
Yep, it's
and
well
showing
known.
you all of the other residences that have horse corrals, horses on the property.
how many dumpsters are there, Mr. Russo? I'm looking at the pictures and it looks like there's certainly more than one.
There are 3 small ones. There are 3 small ones.
Let me ask a question.
Yes.
I'm just going to ask this straight. Plan B for the dumpsters. Apparently, it's a sticking point with this board. Do you have a plan B for the dumpsters, or
No, there really is no spot for it.
there's 3 acres?
Well, the 3 acres are taken up by, we have a, garage that has a CO that's in the front. We have a riding ring in the back, a 200 by 100 riding ring that was constructed for training and repair the horses.
But you understand, though, sir, that
I do.
if this
And
board
the house
denies,
is-
if the board denies us these dumpsters, you're going to have to move them. So that's all I'm saying. Maybe you want to think of a plan B for the dumpsters. That being said, no, go ahead.
Tonight might go a little bit smoother if you start thinking about plan B implementation of the new. Just throwing that out.
But as I was pointing out, going through the code section, what is the problems, what's the fence height, it's 4 feet, code section.
Mhm.
That section of the code, which is the code section. So there are many multiple conditions that have to be
What's the rationale? So horses don't jump over and run away?
That's your code section. It says specifically 5, but seeing the horses, I don't see the conditions, any condition of not over the fence.
If I
Maybe
may,
Mr.
this is
Breslin knows. He's an
Mr.
old
Sanchez.
horseman.
Mr. Sanchez, please.
The dumpster, I guess, is the issue.
Just
My name
name
is
and
John
address.
Paul Sanchez.
Wait.
John
Name.
Paul Sanchez, 240 Allwood Avenue, Central Islip.
Thank you, sir. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. The dumpster is 5 feet off my side behind my shed. I have 0 issues with. It's every Monday, 6:15 a.m. They pick it up, they get rid of it, they're gone. They go from that house, they go across my parents' house, get that dumpster, get that manure, then go 2 houses over, get that manure gone religiously. I have no issues.
So you're stating that the other residences around this,
Every residence in there that owns horses, they all take care of it.
they all take care of it and
There's
take
only
the
one
dumpster?
person in the neighborhood that's a thorn in everybody's rear end.
Gotcha. That's,
I have
that's,
no issues with them, and I'm not selling. My kids are gonna bury me in the backyard, so I don't have to worry about that either.
No, you'll violate town code if you do
That's
that.
fine.
But
I
make sure,
violated worse
it's-
things.
yeah, make sure it's 5 feet.
I've been here for the variance and everything else. Don't get me started on
You want
that.
to be buried near the dumpster?
Listen, I've been told the house is too pretentious for the area, everything else. For
it
who? I
helps.
want to live in Central Islip. I've been there my whole life, 50 years.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're looking to spend the money, beautify that neighborhood.
It-
I
it-
have no issues with the dumpster. They take care of it. They've done nothing but beautify that since they took over the
Thank you.
property.
It helps to know that there's other dumpsters that get picked up around the
Everywhere.
area too. From,
Dumpsters
from,
that-
from my point of view, I just thought that these dumpsters were there
No,
with
it's
the
everybody
storm
there.
and it gets,
It's all
it's
in
gone.
dumpsters. They get picked up, they trailer them out, and that's it. It's usually on Monday morning, 6:15 a.m., and they go out. It's
Right.
taken care of.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Mr. Breslin, how are you tonight?
I'm great. Nice to see everybody.
You
John
too.
Breslin, 44 Elm Street, Huntington, New York. Mr. Wexler made a joke about me being a horseman. I actually grew up, we had horses in the backyard. My sisters had horses. And I found them to be nothing but a pain in the neck because all it was work. But what I did learn from that was how much work is involved in keeping the property neat. And I've been around a lot of horse properties over the years doing the work that I do. I have never seen anything as neat as this property, ever. With
No, the
this many
pictures, the pictures
with horses on it.
bear you out.
I've also, it's a very, very unique setting on east of Connequot Avenue on Alwood. You have all of these properties, almost every single one of them has horses in their backyard. Some more than others. They have barns, and they all have horse decor out on the roadway. So it's when you say that it's horse property or horse location, and there are other places in the real estate industry where that's referred to in other parts of Long Island. I've never seen anything like it in this concentrated an area. So this so fits with the community that it's completely part of it. The fact that it goes back to the 1930s as part of the Hunt Club makes perfect sense. Essentially, the neighborhood was built around it. It also makes sense that it provides easy access to the park that has the riding trails for everybody to use it.
Mr. Breslin, you probably know 267B as well as anybody in the state. What do we do with, if we grant this, allowing all of those corrals in the front yard, what happens when everybody, we know that's horse country, you see it all the time. What do we do when everybody says, oh, I want to put corrals in the front?
So in this case, I think that's the easy.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the issue is that where the house is. The house gives rise to the variances for most of the setback relief, the corrals in the front yard, the corrals in the side yard on the east. Those were all caused by the location of the house. It's not that they're in the technical front yard, the distance to the street. It's because they're between the house and the street. And the house is set back so far. Those paddocks are still 125 feet from the street.
I see what you're saying.
So it's really, it's unique. And this was a pre-existing house. It existed prior to the zoning code. So it's a unique circumstance that gives rise to this. So someone who's coming in to build a horse situation can't look at this variance and say, hey, they had corrals in the front yard, I want corrals in the front yard. They are doing it because the house was already there and was existing.
Well,
and that's what gives rise to the problem.
I think I know what you're saying, but you lost me with the house is already there. Suppose somebody in that area said, my house is already here, and I want to put corrals in the front. How would we say, oh, no, that's different from this application?
Well, I think in that, I don't think there's a lot of properties that have that situation, but I think in that case, you would have it, but then you could limit it by saying, well, you still have to be behind the legal front yard setback. You could have that distance.
But they're going to say you didn't do it in this application.
But you actually, you are. The corral, well, again, the paddocks where the horses actually stay are set back more than 125 feet.
From the road.
From the road.
But they're on both, I'm just, again, maybe we're just going around the same thing. They're on both sides of the house.
Yeah, but
So they're in the front yard. I get it, they're set back 125 feet, and that may be a distinguishing point.
there is, but then, and the house that's on the east side is up towards the road, so it's nowhere near there. And then you come to the park is just behind that. So it actually abuts the park
Right.
in the northeast corner.
All right, no, I see there, I see. All
Again,
right.
unique circumstance.
No, you make a point, you make a point. No cheating.
So
Only when we have
So-
the pleasure of speaking with
So
you.
in the front portion, their paddocks are 125 feet. There's a pasture area. And I remember reading the prior hearing minutes and the discussions between the board about trying to discern what's pasture, what's prairie, what's paddock, what's corral, and not people understanding what those things are. And certainly that makes sense. So the grassed area in the front, that's essentially a fenced-in grassed area, is referred to as the pasture area. So that technically needs relief, but it's just grassed-in area that I suppose at times the horses might graze in it. But even that's 50 feet from the road.
And there are substantial trees that have been planted in the front. If you look at photographs, when you look at the residence from Allwood Avenue, you cannot see into the property. The photographs are evident of that unless you go to the gate, which is a locked, gated, keyed-in entry, and then it would open up if you know the combination, and then you go down the long driveway to the house and to the stable.
So, and then the other setbacks that are in the back relate to what's the riding rink, which is, the riding rink is, it looks like a big circular area with a fence around it. But the materials that are put in there are, that's like a track, or any other specialized track. It's built up with special materials underneath it and has drainage underneath it. It's not a mere something you can just move the fences in. You have to reconstruct the whole ring in order to do that.
I see that in Yellowstone.
Correct.
So, there's
Excellent choice.
That's an excellent analogy. It's the same, that's the issue. So where there's only a section of that where it abuts a house on what would be the westerly end of it. The rest of it abuts the street in the back and the park.
Mr. President, I'm looking at the aerial and I see the blue outline of the applicant's property. What is to the right? And is that? No, that skinny strip. Yeah, that's a house there?
And that's the one you said the house is way up front, right?
Yes.
That's the house.
On the other side, it's important, that's where the expansion of the house is, and the pool is in the back. And if you look at the photograph, you see the entire area clear, the barn, right, the flooding.
Do we have a letter from the house to the right? I don't know if that's in support?
Can I ask a question to Mr. President?
Sure.
Mr. President, I know your expertise in appraisals for all these years and land use. The CO for 252 Allwood Avenue in Central Islip, one-family dwelling. Do you believe this property is used, in your expert opinion, as a one-family dwelling?
Well, it's an unusual property. It's a one-family dwelling, but it has a horse, a large horse stable.
But hear me out, you know what I'm saying. This area, we know it well, has many horses in it, and they're one-family dwellings. The people call it their home. They lay their head at night. It's not and although this nonprofit is probably wonderful, it's not in a nonprofit's name or LLC. It's in their personal one-family residence. It was denied last time, I believe, if I remember correctly, because the use of the property.
But it's clearly a one-family house. I mean,
I know the house, the structure is a one-family house.
Yeah.
Is this property used as a one-family dwelling, in your expert opinion?
Yeah, it's a great question, and in the way you phrase it, I think it's used as a house with other things used to benefit the charity. the charitable component.
So it's not used as a one-family dwelling?
No,
Because
I-
then the neighbors, and again, I'm charitable myself, I love it. The neighbors are not charities. They don't use their,
But
I don't think they use their property as charities. I haven't heard anyone say that, or any letters stating that.
But the house is used as, I mean, if they made the house bigger, then, you know, you potentially take away one of the variances. But for their use, that they use the house for, when they stay there, they don't need it bigger.
Forget about, I appreciate that, sir. I'm just asking, Mr. President, if you don't mind. We also, as you know, have to look at how this house is CO'd and zoned, right? How this property is CO'd and zoned. If you were coming up here telling me we have all these variances, we have 12 horses that are for our pleasure, we live, this is our residence, what you say it is your residence, I cut that. But I'm not sure if it is clear, like it was denied last time, whether this is used as a one-family residence.
But I think the concern last time in reading the minutes was more about it being a business.
I think we're saying the same thing.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's a business in any way, shape, or form. Clearly, the primary use of these horses is for the benefit of him and his wife. They took, these were basically rescue horses that they took and fixed and keep on the property for their own use. That's the primary focus of this. The other part that they use it for, if you will, for the charitable component, is clearly secondary to their primary use of this for their own benefit.
But your client, who's sitting behind you, yes, signed a residency affidavit, but stated a different address, and he admitted on the record that they have a residency in East Setauket, I believe he stated. So that's like saying, I own a place in Florida, I'm going to use Florida as my residency to give my kids a little break on some college, but I really hang out in New York most of the time, Long Island. Like, I don't know.
Well, if you use Florida, because I'm very familiar with people who claim Florida as their residency, and they spend, a lot of them spend pretty much 50% of the time in New York.
You need 181 days. We have a
Right.
home in Florida,
Right.
and I can't claim it because I'm here.
But
So I get it. but-
And I think I don't know how many days he spends in each residence, but the analogy is somewhat correct. He uses both residences. So I think your analogy is not far off. He's not saying he lives there all the time. He acknowledged right from the start that
I think the term is primary residence.
Don't-
but
I don't
our
even think it
chairman
said-
was- but let me just finish.
Okay.
I think it's primary residence, and again, I'm just spitballing this, as they say, back of the envelope math, but I have a feeling that the home in East Setauket is sufficiently larger and better equipped than the one-bedroom, one house surrounded by paddocks. And he's spending, you don't have to answer this, I'm just telling you my thought process, he's spending most of his time in the East Setauket home. And I'm not saying you never go to it, but I have a feeling that's your principal or primary residence. And my concern, and again, we've got to figure all this out, is other people don't have that ability to, that is their primary residence. So we have to look at it in that regard. I don't have the answer, I'm just telling my thought process so you can chime in.
I understand, but I don't think the statute says primary residence.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But we've got to take all of these factors in and figure out, again, is this commercial, is it not commercial? Where do they live? Because we don't want to create issues for the neighborhood that the applicants can avoid.
I think you're going to hear in a few minutes from more neighbors that are going to have sentiments very similar to Mr. Sanchez, which may answer some of those
Yeah, I
questions.
imagine they're going to be in support. We know that horse
But
territory.
I think there's not a lot of neighbors. It's a small street. So I think you'll, and I think they'll be able to, they'll surprise you by virtue of that.
Appreciate it.
Do you have any employees or people that help you maintain the property?
We have one employee,
Does he live there?
part-time. She's a caretaker.
So does the caretaker live in your primary residence?
No.
Wait, your residence? So she lives in a separate
She has her
structure.
own home, and she sometimes stays at the farmhouse.
Is the own home on the property?
Yeah, if the weather's bad, et cetera. Oh, yeah, she has, but
not on the property.
Not on the property.
Not on the property.
I thought you said she has her own home on the property.
No. There's only the residences that are shown on the certificate of occupancy dating back to 1956.
And the other relief was the garage, which is in the front yard technically as well, but that had a CO.
Okay. Yeah, I see it as a CO audit, right here.
The CO requires further additions based on any variance relief that is granted.
So when you look under 267, there is no other way for the applicant to do it without relief from this board, primarily because of the location of the house. I mean, that causes it. Certainly not going to change the character of the neighborhood that was established. Certainly not going to adversely impact property values. We're not changing any of the physical and environmental conditions in the area. When you look at when you talk about the substantiality of the variances, the notice is very busy and long. But when you peel back the onion, you realize that most of them are caused, again, by the location of the house. And they're really not that substantial when you look at that.
I appreciate that you all keep coming back to the variances. And I think the uniqueness of the property and the variances, and I think once you're done, we're gonna have Deirdre say a few words from planning. But when we're just kind of gazing over the fact that it's CO's a one-family dwelling. It actually had a rental permit at one time for a one-family dwelling. And I know you stated that it's not going to change the nature and character of the neighborhood. However, if everyone on this block decided to promote a nonprofit use at their property, that changed. Like if, one person does something in a neighborhood, sometimes other people take, well, they did it, I could do it too. And all of a sudden you have this, and we have to worry about that as a zoning board, right? We have to worry about the code that we have here, and we have to uphold.
But I think with all due respect, I think you're reading more into it than what's the issue before you.
Okay, that's fair.
Having been inside residence myself,
It's beautiful. I see the
the
pictures.
interior of that residence is already decorated for Christmas.
Yeah.
So my response to you is you have a couple who has a second residence, they reside here. When they want to reside here, they go from Secaucus to here or here to Secaucus. And like I said, I have two residences on Long Island. One's in Belport, one's in Fire Island. So from May till September, I'm in Fire Island. Bottom line, I have two residences. Where do I vote? I can vote if I wanted to in Fire Island, if I wanted to come through that effort, but it's more convenient to be in Belport. I don't think, and your code doesn't speak to anything about the voting issue.
I
I'm
don't,
just well, the question.
I only ask that because to me that's an issue of
But
jobs.
it's, in my opinion, not something that's relevant to this particular application. And having been inside this residence, there's a full kitchen, fully stocked, there's a full den, there's a full bedroom with clothes in the closet, there's a living room area and a den area. And it's with a screened-in porch and it's beautiful. I think any of you would like to be there. And if you like horses, I myself don't care for horses. But you have a beautiful venue that you could be in.
I don't think any of us up here are arguing that fact. I think that
So
we
I
just,
just want to put that on the record.
I
Mr.
appreciate
Di
that.
Lorenzo, to your point before, one of the other uniquenesses, it's almost 3 acres.
Yeah.
Which is another unique component to it. So when you talk about somebody else wanting to do it in connection with a single-family house, that's an unusual plot size. It's rare that you'd have somebody that wants to come in and use their 3-acre plot to put 12 horses on it and have their single-family house there. But as you know, you hear every week, people are looking to maximize development potential and make money on properties. In this case, we have somebody who's not looking to do that. So I think that's another unique component part of this that you're looking at.
No, that's a good point. And again, it's not lost on us that this is an eleemosynary institution to help wayward horses. That certainly carries weight.
The tax bill alone, which I provided a copy, is sitting there just under $16,000. So I'm sure it's being taxed appropriately based on.
These days,
I was going to say, I don't know.
Except it's only a one-family home. If
Yeah.
you went and told me we're putting on an addition, then of course the taxes would rise, but nothing's been touched since the 1936 CO that was there.
How many horses are currently on the property?
12. Exactly what's allowed by
How
code.
many of them does the applicant own?
12.
So he doesn't board other people's horses?
No.
take other people- okay.
No one can come there and bring a horse.
If
They're all
we were to
business.
grant this, except for the manure dumpster, what would be the harm to the community or to zoning?
None.
No, I'm just trying to think. It's 3 acres.
Just so you, going back to the manure dumpster, you heard from the neighbor, the difficulty in the manure dumpster, it's 3 acres. And the difficulty would be finding a way that you could have it in a location where you could get the truck to it. And Mr. Nicoli is looking around the survey, I'm sure he appreciates this. There's a very narrow opening to the right of the barn and the riding rink and the paddocks. To be able to get the garbage truck around the barn, because if the only other place you could likely want to put it would be in the back. Otherwise, you're putting it in the front, and that just it seems to me not to make any sense.
In the entire front area, as was stated earlier, yes, and the driveway. It's not a place that is the appropriate.
Just one more thought. And again, I'm just trying to parse this through. This area is very unique. Everybody says the property is unique. It doesn't matter. It's 50 by 100 in Brentwood and it's unique. But this really is unique.
I would agree with you.
And it's also the use is unique in that these are the horse lovers and the horse people, and there's a little section of Islip that just happens to exist next to the Connecticut State Park. Should we view it differently? Because this is unique. I've heard a million times people say unique, but should we look at it a little differently with respect to the houses, the barns and the paddocks, and maybe this is one of those cases that really is a unique use. It's just a tiny sliver of Islip that people, the horse lovers. Just a thought.
They have that direct access to the park. We literally have a gate.
Right.
to 35
That's why people live.
Bohemia has some of it too.
I have
Yeah.
a question.
Right. That's right. The other side.
I understand the difference between the riding area, the training area, the grazing pasture area. What exactly does the horse do in that? Is that where they just hang out during the day?
Yes.
So it's like the living room.
Yes. They get fed there, they have water there. It's where they live.
One of
And
the
then they
structures-
sleep in the stable? Or is that where you keep all the
They
equipment?
can sleep in paddocks and horses don't like to be inside, literally, but most of them go inside.
We also have a structure there that they call a horse shed. It's open on 3 sides.
So what happens in there?
Well, if they want to get out of the ring, they can get in there.
Right.
And that's on the easterly side of the property.
Mr. Breslin, have you concluded your?
I'm done, unless you have any questions of me.
Yeah, I'm going to ask more questions in one moment. I would just like Deirdre from planning to give their opinion.
Could you speak up, please?
Deirdre's worst nightmare, the microphone.
Okay. Definitely hesitant about the application. I think there's a lot of things that they could easily fix, like the fence height, like having it 10 feet from the neighbor in the back, 10 feet from the side. I think those are things with like the giant training lot and the grazing pasture in the front where they do have a lot of space that they could definitely take it into 10 feet and be complying. With the manure, I really think that should be moved. I'm not sure why it can't be put on the north side of the stable. That also keeps it out of the way, keeps it close to the stable, and would be 30 feet from the side yard, 30 feet from the rear yard, and still be plenty feet from where it needs to be away from the dwelling and other factors like that. The plastic shed next to the garage, that's another thing that I don't think really needs to be there. With the paddocks in the front, I'm not sure if, I know they're saying that there's no commercial business running out of here. When you Google the address, it comes up Hearts and Horses, Training, Recovery, and what was it? It's Rescue, Training, and Recovery. So it's something that I would think at least horses are going in and out if they are getting horses that need to be rescued in recovery and training. So I'm not sure how that could work for the property. If that means that there will be people coming in and out with horse trailers, bringing horses in, taking them out. I'm not sure what the training exactly would entail as well. There's posts on their Facebook page as recent as November 8th about this. So I'm not sure, the scope of that either and what that could mean for the area. If it, has more traffic than we might see because it's such a property that cars could just kind of go down and hide on the property and you wouldn't even notice. I just think that this is not really, they came in 2018 and then they made the application worse and came back.
How'd they make it work, in your opinion?
When they first came, it was only for a certain amount of paddocks and they were asking to do it. Now they're trying to legalize the paddocks that they put in from the first ask, as well as there's more asks that with the manure, with the side yard, with the stable being bigger than the one-story residence, there's a lot of extra little things
I'm
that,
sorry, I missed something. The application in 2018 was denied.
Yep.
And then the paddocks were installed, notwithstanding that denial. Wait, you cannot interrupt, ever. Thank you.
based on the survey from the 2018 to based on the survey now, there's changes. Things were added, paddocks were added. There wasn't the call, and I'm not sure if it was just a different code, but there wasn't the requirement for the manure in the first one, I don't believe. I don't think the fence height was in that call either. I'm not sure if the setback was in that call either. The 2018 was just for 13 corrals. Now this one contains, it talks about 15 corrals and a few other items that are added to
Let me
it.
just ask, you can now, were these, we could look at the aerials, were these corrals or paddocks added after 2018 denial?
There were actually 5 additional paddocks on the original submission, which basically we were proposing this is what we wanted to do, and then when we were denied, we can go forward with it.
So why are the surveys different then?
Because the survey that was originally submitted was not done by.
Was not accurate at the
Was not
time then?
accurate. Because when you read the minutes from 2018, both in August and in October, you wonder what was the contractor and the expediter doing, because they weren't answering your questions. They had no knowledge of the property. There was no knowledge as to the use of the applicant. And the applicant wasn't present, nor was anybody from the community that came to those hearings.
Who was the contractor?
DeBarry.
And what was he contracting to do?
Renovate the barn as well as the house.
And your direction and questions in those minutes, and I have copies of them here, but I know you have them for the record if you review them, will clearly indicate that you were very concerned about the issue, and they didn't respond to the issue of use. They didn't respond to what the property was being cited and used for by the applicant.
So if
So
you
when
look at the-
I brought the application
Okay,
forward.
hang on a second. If we look at the aerial,
Mhm.
they'll show no changes between 2018 and now. I just want to know what Deidre is saying.
The
And
additional 5 paddocks that were in the 2018 were never installed. So what was there was there.
So,
It's there now.
So 2018 reflected what's there today.
we can
And
look-
when I asked them to review the survey information they provided, we operated off of the prior survey, as I stated in my letter to this board in August 31. And I said to you and cited that we're going to
I
eliminate.
think Deidre has the technology to put it up. Can you do that? Let's take a look.
I don't have it here with me this evening.
Can I just ask one question before we go into this? I'm looking at both surveys, both the licensed New York State surveys with their stamp, and they're different. So you're stating that the 2018 survey is incorrect?
The 2018 survey is incorrect, yes.
So a licensed surveyor put a stamp on an incorrect
I
survey?
cannot speak to that issue. All I can say is that when I asked for a new survey to be done by Pinnacle Surveying, this is the most recent survey.
But
And
that doesn't necessarily mean the old one is incorrect.
I'm just indicating
Let's
to
look
you.
at the aerial. I mean, the aerial's not going to lie. So if you can zoom in and
This
tell us what we're
is-
looking at.
Yeah, so this is the 2020 one, and this shows the 3 that are up here, the 2 here, there's 2 here. The shed hasn't been built yet in this one. And then the 4 along here, the grazing pasture, and then the training ring up there.
So how many corrals, or are we calling them corrals? How many corrals do you see, paddocks do you see in 2018?
That's what we done at 2018.
Wait, this is 2018.
So this is the 2016 one.
Well, I was asking Deidre, I'm sorry, but you'll have the opportunity.
The only other aerial we have is the 2016 one, which shows a different configuration of paddocks up here. Doesn't show that there's a paddocks here when there was one in the 2021, like there is here. And I believe there's supposed to be,
There's a paddock on the outside of that training ring over there, right there where your
I think,
arrow is.
yeah, it changed up here. There's supposed to be one up here you can't really see very well. This one you can't see either, but it just seems like there's no shed here, and then there's a shed on the survey now.
So the shed is the big offender.
Well, there's just differences all throughout,
Yeah.
all of them. Nothing's inconsistent. And they're saying that everything stayed the same.
Yeah, wouldn't it look identical if everything stayed?
But this survey is from 2014 and doesn't show that. Well, I'm just saying now the surveys are like accurate, so it's very hard to kind of,
The surveyor in 2018 put the proposed paddocks on a certified survey? That would never go. It was just proposed.
But
They marked as proposed? Yeah, I don't see.
But that's why I'm. Well, that's why, hang on, that's why there's an issue with the surveys one way or another. That's why I want to look at the actual photographs. And the photographs, we get very emotional. The horses. Yeah, horses. Yes, horses. The aerials are not identical, so there were changes made that we're trying to figure out how this occurred. No, we're not talking about the surveys, because there's an inaccuracy apparently, as you say, so let's look at the photograph. Forget about the survey. You've said they're inaccurate. I want to look at the photograph, unless you say from satellite is inaccurate and it shows differences. I'm trying to wrap my head around why it's different.
Rich,
and those don't show
can you
anything.
explain
So
the difference?
sometime between 2013, 2016, they were built. And then between 2016 and 2020, the configuration was changed again.
Yeah, you see our concern, the aerials are not going to lie. It shows a change in configuration, and we're trying to figure out why. And as a board, when there was a denial and then changes were made, it raises an eyebrow. I just want to make sure we understand everything. He's Mr. President. Oh.
Keep saying the surveys. Trust me.
Well, yeah, I'm not using the survey because you told me it's inaccurate, so I pay due obeisance to your statements. So that's why I said, let's push the aerials, the surveys aside, ignore them, and let's look at the aerials. And there's disparity in the aerials that I'm trying to figure out why. Well, well, that's why I brought it up, so you can explain it. Right. Okay, no, all right.
So you keep stating, and I don't know anything about horses or horse training, so I apologize right before I say it, but you keep saying a training ring. You train your own horses there?
Not only to rescue, but essentially, horses we have, on that, you know, that was the original, honestly, that was the original consideration. They were better, comfortable, but they never left. So it's thankfully not documentation, the final suit, the rescue essentially.
So with regards to the social media platform and what is put on social media regarding your property, what do you say to that?
It's private use.
But it's not what the social media platform states.
Well, we're not doing outside actions. We don't train outside. Foundation. I have a friend who comes on the property. He doesn't have his own place. He does videos on the property. I don't pay him, he doesn't pay him. We allow him to use it, just like many other people in the neighborhood like to have access to the property. Gates are there. You know, there's no, I wish there were, I wish there were, believe me.
Okay, appreciate that. All right, can I know that some people are here to be heard.
Yes.
Do you mind at this point if I ask Mr. Russo? So I just want to say one thing, and everyone's more than welcome to come up and state for the record. However, if it's going to be redundant, the same stuff over, please try and keep it calm and short as possible. And if you want to choose one or two for the area to come up and speak, that's great too. However, we're just trying to, we've all been out a long time. I'm sure you have all been out a long time today too. So we're trying to keep it to a minimum if possible.
I'll leave the survey up here that I know to be accurate based on what I've seen as of Saturday, and I'll leave the binder that you have here as well if they want to find their residents, if some of them are here, with the list and the information provided.
Thank you.
Thank you. Want to ask the opposition to speak first if anyone's opposed?
You want, does that matter?
Yeah, let's hear the opposition first.
So let me ask one quick question. Is there any opposition to this property in the audience? Is there any opposition? Would you like to come up and speak first? Just name and address for the record, please. You can move the mic to wherever you'd like so we can hear you.
Okay, Susan Pellegrino, 85 Deer Path Road, Central Islip. I am here,
Can you spell your last name, please?
I'm sorry, Pellegrino.
And how far do you live from that?
I'm on the corner, so my property is on the corner of, borders Allwood and Deer Path. It's on Deer Path.
So what
So
would you say in feet? Or
I can see directly what happens, yeah, on this
So
property. But
300,
I'm here on behalf of the Central Islip Coalition of Good Neighbors. I am the vice president of that organization. I did submit a letter. I believe it was put on file, so I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Yep.
And why, as an organization, we strongly oppose this application for reasons that were stated at the last application, the application in 2018. I was here to speak on that. These are egregious after the fact variance requests. And
what do you mean by that?
these, just the storage unit that was built after the fact, they needed a variance for. The barn that's supposed to be behind the house. I have lived in this neighborhood on and off for 40 years, and horses are beautiful animals. But what's happening on this property is not primarily residential, and unfortunately, many other properties, but are not primarily just residential.
Well, let me just interrupt you. You have eyes and ears.
Yes.
We don't. What do you observe? What can you tell us you observe that
Okay.
occurs there on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
Traffic, commercial vehicles. I mean, the dumpsters obviously have to come, to remove the manure. But yeah, there's constant traffic. It's not Grand Central, well, it's Grand Central Station for this area because there's a dead end. this
When
is
you
a
say
bit,
constant traffic,
yeah, it's, hourly, there's someone coming, going out, there's commercial, they have to have, dirt poured to, to level the ground. There's just, yeah, deliveries. This has been a property,
What about customers?
excuse me?
What about customers?
Well, I can't see who's a customer. I can't verify that, this is a deep property. But if the use is for children, I mean, I don't see that. I don't see where this is happening. But again, I don't have an aerial view of this property, but I have enough of, of a bird's eye view of what goes on and what traffic comes in and out.
Can I ask you a question, if you don't mind me interrupting you? Your organization is Central Islip Coalition of Good Neighbors. How
Yes.
many people are involved in this Coalition of Good Neighbors, this organization?
You know how many members,
Yeah.
board members? We have 9 board members. I would say we have maybe 20, 30 members.
And most of them live in this horse?
No,
type
no,
area,
no. The Central Islip Coalition of Good Neighbors is concerned about all quality of life issues in Central Islip, not just where I'm living. Like I said, I'm a board member, so I'm here as part of that organization. This piece of property was never intended to be used as a residential property.
what do you base that on?
Because of the activity, the events that they had, and then that stopped shortly after the 2018 application and then denial.
Do you see
They're-
the applicants
they're-
there on a regular basis?
Excuse me?
Do you see the applicants there on a regular basis?
No. They don't live there, and they have never lived there. So, just lost my train of thought here. Yeah,
But you
it's
don't know
never,
you don't, and I'm asking because we want to know the answer. You don't have information one way or another whether or not it's a commercial or if it is a horse rescue. You don't know, you can't tell us one way or another, is that correct?
well, I can see because the corrals are in the front. So, by the town code, a horse, has to be present with someone. Okay, so if the horse is in the corral, there has to be someone there. There's someone, giving instructions in the front of the corral. I can see and I can hear that. And most recently, this is just an aside. This is maybe nothing to do with this application. But since the middle of August, they have been apparently training dogs while their quote-unquote new facility is being built out east. So there's a pack of dogs that you hear throughout the day. I mean, this is
Do we have a
not,
hound dog statute?
yeah. And so, well, I've spoken to the applicant because I'm awakened at 6:30 in the morning and they're howling for 3 weeks, and that's the answer I get. And this is from the middle of August. And then who's ever training the dogs is using a horn that they have to blow to give them whatever their training method is. And that's happening throughout the day. So it's just one change of usage after another. But again, this has never been intended to be a residence and primarily for residence use. So
I appreciate your time.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to be heard? One at a time, please. Name and address for the record,
John
please.
Paul Sanchez, 240 Allwood Avenue, Central Islip.
I guess you don't want to wait till I'm done. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah.
That's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So that is
Keep
the
going.
thorn in everybody's side. My family.
That's not nice. We don't want to throw something. She has a right to speak.
She has a right to
Okay.
speak. My family, we have 4 homes, 3 on Allwood Avenue and 1 on Connecticut Avenue. My parents have 7 acres across the street. And we were in litigation with the town of Islip for 9 years. Because they came in, my parents showed up, unbeknownst to them, with plans to build a house and a barn.
I'm sorry, who is them?
My parents,
Oh, okay.
Joaquin and Audrey Sanchez, they're at 181 Allwood Avenue. From that point forward, they're going to build low-income housing because their last name is Sanchez. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. 9 years in, whatever, went to court. because they're another lot that was an old nursery. But because they didn't have 150-foot frontage and only have 70 foot for a gate, it was caught up in litigation because of a stipulation.
Okay.
This is going back 26 years. She's been in it for 40 years. Anybody new that comes in, you all have it on record. It's the same name. Super. She has an issue with everybody.
All right, let's
All
not.
we
sir,
are doing
sir,
is-
Sir,
Okay, sir, I'm gonna-
Sir, don't talk over me.
Not talking over you.
Let's stop making this personal.
I'm
I
not
don't
being
want to
personal.
hear.
Okay,
listen
I'm just
to
going to
me.
dispute. Go ahead.
No. You have to wait. I personally don't want to hear you say she or any other pronoun about this person. She has every right, I just said it, she has every right to come here. And the ad hominem attacks on this person are not well received by me. Understood?
Understood.
Thank you.
Good. So again, to the commercial traffic, there are more Amazon trucks than any other commercial traffic in there. The only commercial traffic, like I stated, is the dump trucks to get rid of the manure. That's it. No commercial traffic. I live next door. Hear nothing about these dogs barking in the middle of the night. 6:15 in the morning, Monday mornings, manure gets taken. It's no commercial truck. These people are good people. I see them. Yes, I'm next to them. Nobody else can see them from the corner lot because there's woods all there. I see directly next to them. And yes, I see them. There's no issues that were brought up previous to me. They're just falsehoods, in my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Who else would like to be heard? Nice. One at a time, please. Name and address for the record.
James Gallagher, 215 Allwood Avenue. I live directly across the street from this property. They're the greatest people. The property's beautiful. You've heard a million things, but honestly, my house is 40 feet off the street. I have 8-year-old and 9-year-old kids. We never hear dogs bark in the middle of the night, never. That's just one issue that I just heard come up. As far as commercial vehicles or anything, they have lots of barbecues. They have family parties. People do come and go, but it's not like they're running a commercial enterprise off this property. They are not. I live 40 feet off the street, right across the street, next to Mr. Sanchez. We're right there. Miss Pellegrino's house is behind mine. I'm right there. I don't hear all this, and I don't see all of this. I'm all for these people in this operation. They are great. And one thing I've really never heard, nobody's mentioned how great they take care of these horses. It is phenomenal what they do to these horses.
So we just to clear the record, I've stated myself personally up here, it looks beautiful and whatever they're doing is great, but we have a code to uphold also.
Right.
That's our job. We're not making it personal. We have a code to uphold and we have to get all the information and no phone.
I've lived on this block for 10 years, and I actually went to this stable 11 years ago, and that's how I saw this house available, and I moved into this house across the street, partly because of how great that place is.
Thank you so
Okay?
much. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you very much.
Thank you. Who else would like to be heard? Just name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Barry Moskowitz. I live at 84 Deer Path Road. I'm the homeowner there. I live right there. Can you hear this? Repeat. Moskowitz, Moskowitz. Moskowitz.
We can't
Thank
hear
you.
you well. We can't hear you well up here. The acoustics are terrible, so I apologize.
I'm not a speaker. There's a point of view you guys need to look at, is that I live in 11722, which is Central Islip. Now, living right across the street from someone whose mail I accidentally get a lot, I could say I don't live in North Great River, do I? I live in 11722.
That's right. You got to
I
speak
live in
this way.
Central Islip for now, and I don't plan on going anywhere, because if you zoom out on that map, you're going to find out where that really is. It's your gold mine. It's Pinewood Manor. It always was. Hasn't been brought up in a while. That's your horse community. When these bridle trails opened up, it was your gold mine, and you guys knew it. Your forefathers. But we got a chance to bring it back. Sometimes laws need to be changed. The corrals in the front, we love the corrals in the front. And let me, before I forget, do you know that there are people who come by, families, on the weekends, living right there? I see them slowly to look at the horses. To look at the horses. They drive up and down the street taking pictures of our horses. And I guess they drop some money in your town too, don't they? They do. They come from all over to look at the horses, and they're on display. Those corrals in the front, they put food on your table. The laws need to be changed because they used to offend someone.
Sir, you keep coming at us as we're
No,
we're
sir.
against you. Let me hear me out. I'm the chairman here, so hear me out a second. You can state what you like to state. Please don't come at us. We're just here listening to your
Okay.
opinion and the applicant's opinions and the facts of the case. So if you're going to keep coming at us, I'm going to ask you to
I'm
step down.
sorry
off the
that it
microphone.
appeared that way.
Okay.
I said, not a
Thank
good
you.
speaker, maybe I should
Keep
step
going.
back a little bit.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that the community that you keep talking about is beautiful, and it's not an accident that it's beautiful. We made it beautiful. This is our little piece of heaven. You know, people live down by the water. They got the boats in their backyard. People live on golf courses with the golf course in the backyard. There's people just to the east of us who live on airports because they love airplanes. We love animals. That's what we do, all of us.
Appreciate it.
Maybe not one of us. Maybe there is a particular one who is not happy with it.
Sir, didn't you hear the admonition? Do you really have to go there?
Just don't.
You know what? It appears as if, no, do I have to? No, personally
then
not have to,
don't.
but it is
Then
going to
don't.
need to be addressed
Then
because
don't.
the neighborhood's changing. If everyone, like you said, what if everyone wanted the paddocks in the front? Well, then maybe the paddocks should be in the front. Maybe they actually should be in the front
But
now.
we have zoning codes, sir, to uphold.
They can be changed once this place is understandably the horse community and not by accident. And bringing people in, not by accident. That property you're talking about is absolutely gorgeous. And they're great people, blah, blah, blah. Great people doesn't mean anything in our neighborhood. It's how they take care of their animals. And they are you shouldn't be shunning them. You should be welcoming
No
them.
one's shunning them. No one's shunning
Should.
them. We have we have a code. No one's shunning them. We just have a code to uphold. That's all
I
we're doing.
didn't insinuate that you were. I said that one should not be. No,
Okay.
you're right. I said you.
All right.
I wasn't looking at you, though.
Appreciate your time,
I-
sir.
That's what I want to say. I just want to say, just keep an eye on the future of
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great night. Next up, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is James Gallagher, Jr. My address is 1224 Montauk Highway C. I currently operate out of my father's backyard. We have a little two-stall barn. I am there every morning and evening. I have been in this neighborhood since I'm 8 years old. I am now 21 now. I was there before what the previous owners was there. I would like to address two things, one of them being the facility, how beautiful it is. I can testify personally saying that that property should be on the front of a magazine, and it is 10 times better than how it was the previous owners had. These current owners, who are very blessed to do this into this neighborhood, have put easy over $1 million into this property and into this facility. They have, as far as the commercial trucks coming in, I can testify right now, I currently have my Class A CLP. The only way you will get into that property and get a dumpster is currently where it is. It will be almost impossible to get it there. I'm currently trying to go for every endorsement I can get for my license, and while doing my test runs, it is not going to be easy going anywhere else except where it is now. That truck will be there longer and just make more complaints. But personally, since I've been there, being there in the mornings and being there in the afternoons, and on the weekends being there every day, or when there's a holiday, I'm there every day. I personally plow for the town of Islip myself. This area, that is the only place you'll be able to get a dumpster out of that property.
Okay.
Let's go as far as, sorry, I'm having a memory block. But I've been there a very long time, except for 4 years. 3 years at Fishburne Military School down in Virginia, 1 year at University of Alabama. When it comes to that property and the people there and the barbecues and stuff, I personally been at the barbecues. I've been there. I personally tried to buy a horse in there. You can't. They tell you you cannot. These horses are not for sale. Trust me, I wish I could. Those horses are amazing. I've seen some of the stuff that these do and what the people that own that property do into training these things. They sit there every day. And as far as like a one family being there training these animals, I know people that live in, actually, let's rephrase that. When I bought my personal horse, he came from Bismarck, North Dakota. The transporter was on that same street 2 weeks prior, who lives in Wisconsin. That is how well known Sportsman, Deer Path, and Allwood Avenue is. That someone from Wisconsin was there 2 weeks ago and goes, "Oh, I'm here once a month." This little area is a crown jewel of the horse community on Long Island. Not even just Islip, not just Suffolk County or Nassau County. This place is a jewel. There is nothing really else like it. And what's funny is you go to Florida, you go to Virginia, or in my case, you go to Alabama or Bismarck, North Dakota, or Wisconsin. I tell them, "Oh, I'm on Allwood Avenue. I'm the house with the horse statue." They go, "Oh, I know you." And it's actually hysterical because the people behind me can testify to that.
Great, thank you, sir. Just to be clear, we're speaking of just this property, not the area of where this whole area over there, just to be clear. I know everyone keeps coming up and talking about the area, and we appreciate that, but.
I was just trying to describe.
I just want to let you know, the application's for this property.
Is there any questions you guys have that would like an answer? Any question at all about this? Because I can almost testify for myself.
No, I think you've answered them all.
I think you adequately described what you've observed, and I think there's no doubt that these are people who want to help horses. I think hearing all of you people, your testimonials, were, at least me, I believe that.
The word "want to help" is actually wrong. It's been. These people have been here years. I grew up with these people. These people practically raised me. At one point, actually, when I was in middle school, in a way you could put that, I got my bus changed in middle school to go to this property because that's how much I used to be there.
Okay.
But I'll leave it at that. Have a good evening,
You
everyone.
too, thank you, sir. Good evening, sir.
How you doing?
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Leonard Saffron. I live at 290 South Lawn Avenue, which is the street directly behind Allwood Avenue. That property runs right along my property line. The only thing between us is a fence. I could see in that property from my dining room, from my living room, and from my kitchen. SAF as in Frank, RAN. First of all, I never heard the dogs howl early in the morning. I never heard them howl at night. My bedroom was right near the fence. And I never heard them anytime making any noise. Once in a while in the afternoon, you might hear a couple of barks here and there, but nothing that would bother anybody. As far as people looking into that property, you can't even see into that property. They have trees in front. In order to see them, you have to push your way through the trees. You can't see what's going on in there. And by the way, I could see the whole property. And the property is beautiful, well maintained. The animals that are in there, the horses that are in there from time to time are beautiful. There's the most beautiful animals in the world, the horses. They're just gorgeous. So they train a few horses there. They're quiet. They're very respectful neighbors. They're wonderful neighbors. You couldn't ask for better. And I can't see as far as traffic on that street. I have friends on Allwood Avenue, so I go up and down that street occasionally. I hardly ever pass a car. You do see a mail truck now and then or something like that, and you might even see a manure truck, which usually comes very early in the morning. I don't know when they're
6:15.
6:15? Okay, 6:15. Well, I'm still in La La Land at 6:15 in the morning. So I don't know anything about that. But yeah, there's no traffic. And by the way, that property and the things that go on in that property enhance the beauty of the neighborhood. It keeps the rural feeling of the neighborhood alive. You look out, everybody that lives over there, we live in the country. My property, I live in the forest. I'm right against Connecticut State Park, and so is that property. So I have thousands of acres of trees and wildlife, and there's a bear in there now too, if you listen to the news.
Yes, so we've heard.
I hope never to meet him, because the only thing between me and that fence, and that bear is a fence.
Black bears are very nice,
Make
don't
sure if
worry.
you ever see them, you could just, all you have to do is run faster than the person you're with.
Yeah, right. You're right. Well, they say you're supposed to stand up tall and wave your arms to appear larger than you are.
Let us know what happens.
But I'd rather get it, yeah, right. I'd rather not tell you. So, I mean, as far as anything wrong with that property, if you saw the property, it's beautiful. One of the nicest, I have horses also. One of the nicest things in the morning, you look out to see a couple of horses in the corral or wonderless, whatever. I mean, it's beautiful. I feel like I'm out in the West somewhere, which I really would like to be, but I'm not. You know, I moved out here because of the feeling, because of all the horses and the things that go on involving horses. I liked horses my whole life.
We appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
So, I mean, I don't know how anybody could object to anything that goes on. If you saw the property, you would be very impressed. The pictures that you have makes no statement about it at all. I mean, it's really, it's 10 times nicer than that picture could ever be.
It looks beautiful. We have,
It's
we have
gorgeous.
code.
It's beautiful.
We
It
have
really
code-
is.
We have
And-
code to uphold, though. That's why we're all here. I appreciate your time, though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and I hope that you could meet the requests.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Name and address for the record, sir.
Sonny Gargiulo, Garguilo.
I love the hat.
I got the Spurs too.
Nice.
I'm probably one of the people you really want to speak to or hear from. Rich Fleischman is a friend of mine for 10 years. I'm the gentleman sometimes that works with his rescue horses and Lisa's rescue horses. Since I know them, they have not sold a horse, we don't do lessons. We don't do it. To be honest, and Richie hates when I say this, he's a very wealthy man. He doesn't need the money. We don't do lessons. We don't sell horses. Every horse that comes in it's a running joke. His wife says it's a revolving door that goes one way. We've never taken a horse out. We don't even, the original plan was, hey, we're going to try to rescue some horses. Sonny, would you help us fix these horses up so we can find homes for them? Unfortunately for Richie, his wife wasn't that person. You know, she does not release her horses. Every horse that's in that barn has been there. I can actually say every horse has been there since the beginning. I think we've maybe added a couple that we rescued, but every horse there has been a horse that has been doomed for the kill pen. Every single horse was on its way to Mexico to be hung upside down and cut its neck and kill it. That's what we have in that barn. What do I do for Richie? I take these horses in that riding ring and I make sure most of them, because when you get them out of an auction in a kill pen, they have either mental issues, that's why they're there, or physical issues. So I make sure these horses have a good life, because being a good life for a horse doesn't mean, well, we're going to feed you, because they get the best of everything. There is no problem with that. But also to have this ring, to have these paddocks in the front. We talk about the 4 paddocks that are in question. That's imperative to these horses, because that is their downtime. Not horses are made to be outside. We all know, some of us know that are horse people. We know that. They're from the wild, originally. They have to be outside. So if you were not to grant that, and we had to move these horses to stalls, that would be a health issue to the horses, mentally and physically. Imagine an animal that travels 30 miles a day. That's what they have to do, typically, to find food, sticking them in a stall. The paddocks are probably larger than most of the paddocks in that area. Those paddocks are imperative to the health of those horses. And I'm saying this, I'm a horseman for 22 years. I've traveled as far as Germany to do teaching clinics. I know what I'm talking about. I've done 3 wild Mustang challenges where I've worked wild Mustangs. Those paddocks, when we're talking about zoning, we're not talking about what a great guy this guy is and, he's got a nice beard and the place is beautiful. Forget about that. You don't care about that. That's not your business. Your business is, why does this guy need these paddocks? I'm telling you, as a trained professional and a horseman for 22 years, we need those paddocks. We need those paddocks. Those horses have to go out. If they're stuck in a stall, it's a problem. It's a problem. As far as the parties, let me address that. I'm with him for 10 years. I know him since he bought the place. He bought it because I said, hey, Rich, place is for sale. Why don't you buy this place? He probably hates the idea now, but he doesn't make any money there. As far as the parties, there are no parties to speak of. I could tell you under oath, on record, whatever you want to say, set aside COVID, because nobody did anything during COVID. We had 2 parties a year. A harvest party, which we invited the church, and in the spring, we had a barbecue for actually this mentor party we did once. So there's not parties every weekend. There's not people coming in. There's not church kids every week coming in and we're walking them around the horses. There's none of that. They throw a party twice a year, a personal party where they invite their church or their the Long Island mentors, and they bring these kids in twice a year. Is there 50 people there? Sometimes there's 100, all at his expense. His expense. Twice a year. There's not people running in and out every day. There's no lessons there. I don't give lessons. I don't sell horses for him. I don't do any of that. The horses are there. I work them out for him. That's what I do for him. Make sure they stay healthy. No one can, you cannot come in and, like someone said here tonight, and offer Richie $1 million, and I'm not exaggerating, $1 million for one of his horses. He would not sell it.
You may be tempted.
He wouldn't do it. Well, he might do it. His wife wouldn't do it. Okay? His wife wouldn't do it. There's no commercial business there. You know, the commercial traffic's there. I'll tell you what it is. Maybe it's the dumpster guy. We know that already. You guys have heard that. And it's a hay delivery, that the horses need their hay. So the hay trucks come in and they deliver the hay and the grain. And the other commercial is the dumpster guy. There is no, let's bring in 50 trailers and have a big show here and there's none of that. If you came by our stable, there's 3 people, 90% of the time, 99% of the time there, maybe 5. Me, the lady back there that volunteers, and he has an employee that cleans the place
So let me ask
constantly.
let me ask you a question. You seem to
that?
know this property well and
Yeah.
the applicant well. How many days a year does the Fleischmans, I believe their name is, stay
They,
at
they
this?
come when they feel they want
That's not
to,
the question I'm asking.
I
How
don't
many days
have-
a year
I-
approximately do you think that they stay at this residence?
let's say, a third of the year. I could say that, okay? I'm not going to tell you days because I don't count that. You
I
know,
got you.
they come, they look at their horses. Hey, Rich, let's barbecue tonight. Not big bar. Hey, Rich, you want to barbecue tonight? Yeah, let's barbecue. Everybody sits around. They have a couple of drinks. We're at at his house inside. They stay over. Or, you know what? Let's come and see our horses. Him and his wife will come. Hey, you know what, Sonny? We're going to stay the weekend. We're going to watch you work the horses a little bit. We want to be with our horses. They're very, very into their horses and their animals. I mean, they own 4 rescue dogs and 9 rescue cats. I mean, they're animal people. So they enjoy their property. I'm sorry? Yeah, it's crazy. They're crazy people like that. But they enjoy their property. These are 2 people that took a property that was falling apart and made a beautiful property. As far as the dumpster, we need it there. There's really nowhere else you could put. I know you have to have a plan B. I get that. But listen, that's up to you. You know, I have nothing to say about that except where it is it's been there for forever. And no one has a problem with it. And it gets cleaned and dumped all the time. So all these things that, I wanted to come up and make sure you guys understood that this is not a rich guy that has 12 horses of his own. Oh, just some rich guy that bought 12 horses for his personal use. They're not. They're 12 kill pen horses. He's not this, rich guy that throws parties every weekend at his
Sonny,
property.
I think we got it.
You got it?
I think we got it.
All right. You interrupted me.
We're allowed to.
Oh, you are?
We're
I
allowed
thought
to.
just the chairman.
It's not a two-way street.
Wow. What happened to democracy?
Yeah.
Not here.
That's a town hall.
That's town hall.
Well, anyway.
You came to the wrong building.
Anyway, I just wanted to tell you from
All
my
right, thank you.
perspective,
Appreciate
I've been
that.
there a long time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Mr. Russo.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I thank you for your time this evening. Mr. Breslin and I have nothing further to offer. And if you need anything further, please request it now. Otherwise, I would request that you reserve decision to review what you need, and hopefully we have a decision supporting the application. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr.
Have a good
President, everyone else. I'll make a motion to reserve decision.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
As you know, we have 62 days to render a decision. Excuse me?
It'll be long.
It'll be longer. I'm just kidding.
Because of the fact that we're not going to have a hearing.
I know. Everyone have a safe trip home and a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Everybody was well spoken.
We have a few read-ins tonight. Not read